And then so they're like, okay, follow me. We'll send you to your hotel room, which was in the back. And it was literally a jail cell. Like,
were you two separated at this point?
Yeah.
Yes, he wasn't allowed to be with me. So they took all my stuff and they said I'm allowed to grab like a little toiletry bag with me. And they sent me in this room that had like bunk beds. Like it's literally a prison cell.
Yeah.
And they closed the door behind me and then it was locked.
On the Wind is presented by Orca. Go to getorca.com to check out the Orca Core 2 and the Orca Display 2. I've been advocating for tablet navigation for many, many years. And finally, I think we have a solution that just about does everything we want it to do. I've been using it on Spica for the last several weeks of the summer, and it is really, really great. It's a combination antenna that you mount down below and plugs into the NEMA 2000 network with a display outside. I've also got an app on my phone and the iPad that mirrors everything, but the display charges on an induction mount at the helm, and it's super bright, and it's really, really does everything the iPad doesn't do, and the navigation software is great as well. So really encourage you to check it out. It's not that expensive. Go to getorca.com and see what you can do on your own boat with modern navigation that is plug and play and really easy and fun. Ahoy, shipmates. Welcome back to On the Wind. I'm your host, Andy Schell. My episode this week, man, was this a fun one. I think August is going to produce this as one episode, but get comfortable because it's a long one. It's like 2.5 hours, I think. One of my longest episodes I've ever done. What we did recorded it in 2 parts because I had to go to a doctor's appointment in the middle of this, and I'm just like sitting there riveted, and Mia's like, hey, we got to go. And I was like, shit. So I called him back after lunch, and we continued the chat with Dan and Kika. I had actually never talked to them. August interviewed them when they were in Bergen on Uma several years ago, and I never even listened to that episode. So like my experience of Dan and Kika is basically on Instagram because I don't really watch their YouTube. I didn't listen to the episode podcast did, but I'm a huge fan of theirs on Instagram. It's kind of where I get all my sailing content, and they basically really, really, really made me happy talking to them. They're the kind of people that like I had a certain impression of them just from following them on social media, and they are exactly what I expected. And I really hope that the next time I have them on the show, I can do it sitting down in person because they're super cool people, very genuine, and really, really cool. And this was an exclusive episode. The stories they told today, they've never told anywhere else. So it's wild. I won't say any more than that. You got to hear it. It's really cool. And has a happy ending, so stay tuned. As for 59 North, we've got Annapolis Boat Show coming up in a month, which is crazy. Mia and I are scrambling to get ready for that. All the boat show events are on 59-north.com/boat show. We're doing the Woodwind sail. If you want to come sailing with us on Woodwind for an hour and a half, we're doing that on the Friday of Boat Show, I think at 2:45. The link is up to buy tickets for that. There's only 30 tickets available because it's limited, and Mia, myself, and a few others from 59 North will be there. So make sure you do that. Also, if you can get to Annapolis this year to see us, we have extremely exciting news that I am like biting my tongue because I can't talk about it yet, but I'm almost able to talk about it, and by the time Boat Show happens, we will almost certainly be able to talk about it, and we'll be making a big deal about it at Boat Show. So if you can get to Boat Show this year in Annapolis, by any means, if you're a fan of 59 North, come because it will be worth it. That's all I'll say. Go to 59-north.com/boat show. Mia's got her women's happy hour thing on the Saturday. We've got our big crew party Friday night, which is right after the Woodwind sale. That's always a highlight. And then we'll be at the booth all week. So excited to meet everybody that comes out. And with that, we'll get you into today's exclusive episode with Dan and Kika from Uma. Here we go. You're listening to On the Wind, my podcast about offshore sailing. I'm your host, Andy Schell. Dan and Kika of Sailing Uma returned to the podcast to talk to me this time, and boy, do we go deep. What started as a chance to catch up on the latest refit progress on Uma turned into a winding tale of botched visas, border agents, airport jail cells, deportations, almost buying a new boat in Canada, and finally the ups and downs of rebuilding Uma, their sailing home. Dan and Kika have never told this story before on any platform, so grab a coffee or a beer and cozy up for one of my favorite episodes yet. So what happened? You guys had a power outage?
How is the audio? Yeah, first it's funny because usually when there's a power outage, it's because we're running something that's too powerful or our neighbor
We're
is.
usually the ones who cause it.
We just go to the box and just like reset it. But this time the entire yard is off, and we're like, there's no way that making coffee.
Yeah.
You know, we just got this machine yesterday, so this is the first time we're plugging it in. As we're making coffee, everything shuts off. We're like, shit, is that machine like that powerful? It's like this tiny little thing. And then, but no, the guy from the office came by and he said, hey guys, so just so you know, there's no power, but maximum 3 p.m. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is going to be an all day thing.
We're used to it. It's Italy. They have power outages, but we've got like multiple of those little off-grid batteries. We're running Starlink. Everything we have runs off-grid anyway, so it's not really an issue.
And we made coffee, so
nice.
We're good.
I was going to say, did you get your coffee yet?
Yes, we did.
Came through.
We did.
Are you
We're
guys
all energized?
Are you in a container right now?
We are.
Well, it's that's sweet, man. Well, it's ironic because I'm also in a container. I have my office is a converted shipping container that's like got a big window off the side and like doors here, and it's really nice.
Way to brag, bro! Your container's way nicer than ours.
That looks so
but
cool.
you know.
Ours is a little more of a workshop container, but hey, yeah, you know, it's great minds think alike.
That's right. That's right. Where are you guys living?
We're in Olbia in Sardinia.
No, like physically, like, are you in you have the Land Rover?
We live in the we live in the Defender.
We don't live in the container.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So we're in a 20-foot shipping container, and there's like 2 or 3 40-foot shipping containers in the yard, and every time we walk by, we're like, we should have got a 40-foot. We could like convert the back half into a tiny house, convert the front half into a workshop, and then we would have been here for a whole extra year because we would have been building that out instead of building the boat, but that's fine. 20-foot is like just barely big enough to put in all the stuff for the boat rebuild.
We would need an 80-foot. One for storage. You know, I don't know if they make 80-foot container now. 240 foots, yeah.
With a 20 in between. You know?
Yeah, make a bridge.
The container that I'm in, the guy that built this, he has a company that like makes like modular housing out of containers, like just nice. Like that, and building them all together and trying to make it nice. And this was like a side project. So mine's a 20-foot extra high that they built out like. There's a wood floor, walls, electrical outlets. You just plug it in like a boat cord, and then I have internet running in, and it's a super nice office.
That's sweet.
And is this where you live as well, or is this just an office?
No, it's where I currently live. We're moving in January. We live in Sweden. We live in the countryside now, so we live on this big farm. So it's just like plopped outside the house in the backyard on the farm.
Nice.
But it's sad. I'm gonna miss this place because we're moving. We're basically downsizing. We're moving to a smaller house. Just 10 minutes away and in town. Like we live in the middle of nowhere now. We want to be closer to people. And I'm not going to have room for the container. So like now I'm going to have to work in the house again, which is, I've been spoiled. I've been spoiled.
The commute to your office must have been terrible, you know?
10 minutes.
Yeah. Cool. Well, so I want to, we've already started, but I don't watch your guys' YouTube. I didn't listen to the last podcast you did with August. But I follow you guys on Instagram. That's basically where I get my Uma content. And I love what you guys are doing with the old boat. Like the whole concept we have on Falcon. It's like I've always felt it's so much more interesting to find an old boat that you just give a new life to, because otherwise it's just going to rot. There's so many old boats just rotting away in boatyards. I'm sure you're surrounded by them there too. So I really, really, really love the concept of what you guys are doing. And I guess this is like the second time you're rebuilding the boat. But I'm also like way out of the loop because I don't watch your YouTube. So I'm way behind this. So forgive me if I ask really dumb questions because like I just know you guys via social media.
Oh, I think Instagram is kind of pretty much up to date. So there's not much more going on. No, but I definitely agree. Like when we started the refit, we had so many people telling us like, "Oh, this is a terrible idea. The boat, like you might as well throw it up in the trash." Because technically we consider this the third refit that we do on this boat.
It's like the end of the first refit that's been going on for 10 years.
That makes a lot of sense.
The rest were just like prototypes, and now we're finally like putting it in its final form that it should have been at the beginning if we had 10 years of experience and a much larger budget and good relationships with marine companies and understood how boat repair went. Like it took us 10 years to figure it out, but now we're finally doing it.
But the reality is, I mean, we do love our boat. We love how she sails. We already know so much about that boat that we figured instead of going into debt to find a new boat that we would do the exact same thing too. Yeah. Might as well redo it on this current boat because we know we can make her better and she will outlast us ideally.
Yeah. Well, she's a good size. And like Kika said, we like how she sails. We didn't know any better when we bought the boat, but now that we've sailed her for 40,000 miles or something like that, and we've sailed a bunch of other 36-foot boats, we kind of have a bit more of an opinion about what we like in a sailboat. And it just so happens that this hull, still ticks those boxes. So we're like, why spend $100,000 on either a new used boat that's going to come with its own set of issues that we don't even know about, or $150,000 on an empty hull that we don't know how it sails and build it out, or $1 million on it just goes up and up and up, and we're like, how about we spend 10 times less money on that, put a year or two of work in and get the exact boat we want out of it that's built better than anything we've seen.
Well, there's this fallacy that when people, because you said, Kika, when people are saying, oh, it's not practical, you just throw it in the dumpster, whatever. Like nothing in sailing is practical. Like nothing is. It's
That's
all.
Not why
I
we
look
do
at it. No, it's basically for fun. I mean, you guys have managed to make your living out of it as well, but really, it's for fun. It's a passion project. So like, if you just throw out the practicality out the window, then those decisions don't look so strange. Then it doesn't really matter what you do because it doesn't. It's not a practical decision.
Well, it's for us. We've always said that sailboats are very expensive toys, but very inexpensive houses. And so for us, it is kind of practical because we don't have a house, we don't have anything else, and so what we're spending on we're also right underneath an
airplane,
the runway and takeoff.
I can't hear it, so you're good.
You can't? Oh,
no, that's
awesome.
Great. Oh. Google is amazing.
So
you'll hear it in our local.
Just it adds the ambiance. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's a shipyard. It's noisy, and we're in a big steel box. No, so So what we're spending on this refit, people spend renovating their kitchens because we used to do houses as well. So we understand like a middle income household in a mid-sized house in America would spend this much money on a kitchen and a roof. And for us, it's like an entire house that takes us around the world, and we'd make no payments on it after because we're not in debt for any of this. And so that's just like a whole nother level of freedom that it offers us because we don't have any ties to land.
Yeah. That's, the fact that you guys have made it like practical, and even us, we have a 36-foot family boat here that I've run a couple 59 North trips on. It's like, that's how you make it work. You have to make it practical to make it work and make it, pay for itself. Because we're not the type of people that can afford to buy $1 million boat and have a house and all the rest of that stuff. You have to do something practical with it.
In this shipyard, we're surrounded by those people, and they sail their boat for 1 or 2 weeks a year, and then it's back on the hard for their other 50 weeks of the year, and that doesn't sound fun at all. We're the smallest, cheapest, shittiest boat in the shipyard. They're all, 40 to 60 foot charter boats and expensive yachts and power boats and toys because Sardinia, this corner of Sardinia specifically, is where all the rich people come to play for July and August. And for July and August, it's crazy here. And then after that, it's completely empty, and they put all their boats on the hard because they're just toys.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous because some people, there's also race boats on in this shipyard, and they come in, they launch the boat, they're like, oh, they're going to enjoy a couple of months maybe in the water. No, they go out for this one race, 1 week, and then they get back in the shipyard for the rest of the year.
They don't even put bottom paint on the bottom because they're not in the water long enough to get anti-foul, get fouled.
Yeah, and that's race boats, but there's the same thing with the owners' boats as well, like giant, big, super yachts and catamarans and things like that. And they go in the water in July, and they, I guess, enjoy 2 months of summer. And then August, they come back here, they put it back in the hard and wait for the next summer. Like a year at the hard.
Yeah.
Wow.
That doesn't sound as much fun.
No.
So I want to go like way back in time because, like I said, I also haven't listened to the interview that you guys did with August a couple years ago. What's your origin story? How did you guys develop this philosophy? How did you meet? How did you take that first step? Because you've had it, like you said, it's been 10 years of refitting this boat, but where did it start?
So in 1988,
my mom and my dad.
I don't know. So you want to take a crack at it?
Sure. So I'm from Haiti, originally born and raised, and I left Haiti. So I grew up basically on an island, right? And so I've always had this love for the ocean. I didn't know anything about sailboats because our version of sailboats in Haiti are the like open wooden fisherman boat, and that's what I in my mind. That's
hand built with like a blue tarp for a sail.
Yeah. But I was used to power boats because we went fishing and all this stuff. So I always loved being in the ocean. And so when I left Haiti, I was 18, and that was back in 2008. Mm-hmm. I went to Atlanta for university, and well, that's where I met Dan as well. And I knew that traveling was always going to be part of my life at some point because my mom worked at the commercial shipping port. And so I would always go to her office. I would always meet the captains and go on board the ships. I'm like, wow, one day, like I will travel the world. I didn't know it was going to be on a boat. I didn't know it was going to be on the ocean, but I knew that was going to be part of my life at some point. And then, but yeah, a little bit of rewind now. You can...
Well, yeah.
Wait, hang on, Kika. I have a question though. So you said you left Haiti in 2008 to go to school. Was that was that easy to do?
Yes and no. So Haiti doesn't really have universities.
Well, yeah, the U.S. immigration stuff now, a different story.
Yeah,
but
so I guess I had a great childhood.
I guess I'm meaning like leaving Haiti. Was that something that people did?
It was a very known thing. A lot of families, parents, like they spent their life saving up in order to get their kids to the school that they, to follow their passion, so to speak. And I've always wanted to study architecture, and there's no school in Haiti for that. And so back home, we have this book of like the universities of the world. And then you narrow it down to like locations, you narrow it down to field of studies. And location wise, my parents were really excited for me to be closer to home. So Europe was out of the question. So we were looking in the States, where exactly could I go to study, and also in a budget that they had to take me to school. And yeah, then narrowing it down, my grandmother already lived in Florida because she married an ex-military person, or ex-CIA. I don't exactly know what he did. I just know that he was in Haiti at some point, and they called him back, and he said, I'm only coming back if my wife comes with me. And they said, okay.
Wow.
And then,
cool.
I didn't ask questions, but but yeah, so my grandma was in Florida already. Not in Florida, she was in Georgia. And so when I was looking for universities, my first thought was, well, I'm going to go to Georgia, kind of like spend a year, 2 years with my grandma, getting the core classes done, getting maybe a minor, something easy to get me accustomed to, the new life in the States. And then I would go and study architecture somewhere, which happened to be Atlanta. But then I spent a year with her, and I realized how boring that town was. I don't know if you know, it's...
Well, coastal towns in Georgia
it was
really
Brunswick, Georgia, and it was, I don't know, it was like a retirement place. It was the coolest thing you could do was go bowling. And
hey, bowling's pretty cool. Don't knock bowling. I love bowling.
It's bowling like once a while.
Not every day. Not when it's the only thing to do.
Bowling is great when it's your passion. That was not mine. And so after a year, I told my mom, Mom, I can't do this. I don't know where I'm going to go, but I need to go to architecture school now. And I need to go somewhere where I can actually study what I want to study. And so, yeah, I finished all my classes that summer, and then 2009, no, how do you say? 2009.
2009.
2009, I took off for architecture school in Atlanta, and it happened to be when Dan was there too.
Yeah.
We didn't meet till later.
We didn't really meet until fifth year, pretty much. Yeah. Because they start off as like 350 students and you graduate as 30. Architecture programs have huge dropout rates.
Okay.
So you start off in like, I think we had maybe 10 studios of like 30 students in first year. And then near the end, it's 8 or so studios, and then at the very end, it's like 5 students per professor, and you get to know everybody.
Is that because it's really hard, or people just lose interest, or what? Why the attrition?
It's both.
It's. I think. So watching the people who dropped out, some people wanted it to be more engineer based, and architecture, at least the school side of architecture, tends to be very like artistic based. How does this make you feel? What does the light look like? All that, and people like, where's the math? Where's the engineering? So a lot of people dropped out and went into engineering. It's also a very, very hard program with a lot of hours because you are in these studio blocks, and during the day you're working on your projects, and then at night you're working on your projects, and you just don't sleep. And well, the running joke is that it has a higher dropout rate than the Navy SEALs. But yeah, it's a lot of work for not a very big paycheck when you graduate either. You have to really work your way up for a long time before you own your own studio, and then you can actually start making money. So like the payoff for the amount of work that goes into it, you could get a medical degree in the same amount of time, and you get paid a lot more when you graduate. So yeah, it's just a big dropout rate. So it is hard, and also not what people expect usually. But yeah, we were 2 of the 30 people that graduated after 5 years.
Wow, cool.
And then that summer during school, I was like, this was during 2008. So in the States, it was like the first housing crisis there. And so everybody was not able to like buy or renovate or do big projects on their house because nobody had money. But they all wanted to fix up their houses. So I would just go around on a motorcycle with a paintbrush and like, spruce up people's houses. And that over the course of 5 years turned into basically renovating entire, 4,000 square foot houses. Our thesis year, we were doing pretty big projects. And Kika was working with me that last year as well. And then
I want to go back a little bit though, because there's another story that we don't tell often. When we were in school, so we started at the same year. So technically 300 students, we were somewhere in the mix of it. We didn't really know each other back then, but semester after semester. So there's a program in school where after the semester, your final, your thesis of the year, you can win your project can win out of everybody else in your studio, right? And they make like a little bit competition.
It's a design
out of it.
competition every year, yeah.
And if you win that semester, then for the next semester, your project is like plastered on the wall for everybody to get inspired by and everybody to enjoy, and for you to brag about it a little bit. And semester after semester, there's this one name that would always be on the wall, and it was like Dan Deckert. And I didn't know who that was. And I'm like, who the hell is stealing all my sunshine? Like, everybody's trying to win the competition, and Dan he kept winning and he kept winning. And the funny thing is that I never saw him in studio. I didn't know who he was. He just somehow magically won. I was like, does he even go to this school?
I almost never was in studio because I was working, right, to pay for school. And so during the day I was working, and most of my professors were like, hey, as long as you like come in and check in with us from time to time and show us what you're working on and then show up for final projects, like that's fine. And so, yeah, I was never in studio. I was just like, I would check in with them or check in with them after hours. And then so not many people knew who I was for the first like 2 or 3 years.
No. And so I didn't like him. I just didn't like his name. And then one year, I think it was 3rd or 4th year. I don't remember. We had a class trip where we went to Seattle with a teacher to show us around the buildings and stuff.
Because Atlanta doesn't really have like iconic architecture, let's just say.
Right.
Yeah. So there were a couple trips after that. There was Seattle, there was New York, but
Chicago.
My first one was the Seattle trip. And I happened to be sitting next to this guy, and who happens to be Mr. Dan Deckert. For like, how long was it was an 8-hour flight. And we got along so well that we immediately became friends, and we skipped almost all of the trip in Seattle because his best friend lived in Seattle. So we skipped all the tours, and we went to hang out with his friends for like the 4 days that we were there. And then,
what Kika didn't know at the time was that in order for me to afford going on these trips, I was like one student who had a credit card. And so I would just be like, yeah, just give me cash for your ticket. And then I'll buy all the tickets on my credit card and then use the points to buy my ticket. So I could go on all these trips like for free because I'd book the hotel. I'd buy all the airplane tickets for like 5 or 6 of us. And then we'd stick, like 6. I think we actually had like 8 people in a hotel room in Seattle. So I booked, the hotel room and I booked 8 flights, and then with those points I could buy my ticket.
That is, man,
but then I could also choose
way
the seats.
ahead of the curve there. That is smart. Work smart, not hard.
Smart.
Yeah, but then I could choose who sat where as well. So I chose to sit beside her.
So you knew who she was.
Yeah, knew of. Yeah, but in that group of students, I was like, yeah, we're gonna sit together.
That's so cool. And so, Kika, you've been seeing all these competition designs on the wall. The big question: did you actually like his designs?
Yeah, no, it was good. I think it was very.
That's the correct answer.
Creative.
It's like, no.
No, I didn't like it out of spite. No. No, I mean, it was good design and it was very inspiring for sure. But, and he wasn't the only one up there because all the studios had the same competitions too.
It's like one student per, so it's a 5-year program and like one student per year gets, who went like every 4th year project gets submitted and you present your project to an outside panel and stuff. So like every semester of every year, there was a design competition for all 5 years, and then the winners went up on the wall. So, yeah,
cool.
But I think out of 10 semesters, I think I did win like 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah, no, for sure he did. I didn't win one, so not that great. But
so
I
Dan,
graduated.
Where did your did your entrepreneurial spirit, was that born of necessity, or do you think you would have?
Yeah. I think so, because I grew up very different from Kika. I grew up in like the absolute middle of nowhere in the Rocky Mountains of Canada and in like a log cabin in the woods. And so we grew our own food. We hunted our own meat. We chopped down our own wood. We had a garden. We had chickens. We had pigs. And so everything we had was built. I didn't get toys for Christmas. I had to like build them myself, so to speak.
Wow.
And I had Legos. That was like the only real toy I was allowed to have.
Hell yeah.
And so I also left when I was 15 to go to a boarding school in the States because it was like my ticket out of there.
That was your choice to leave? Yeah.
Well, it was an option that I had. And so it was in just north of Philadelphia. And so I was like, get me out of this, like, in a little tiny town called Bernathen.
Okay, I'm from Reading, Pennsylvania, which is like an hour and a half from Philly.
Yeah, okay. It's in like Huntington Valley area.
Yeah, cool.
So I went there my senior year of high school as a dorm student, and so I had to earn my own money. And I mean, like room and board was paid for, and the school was paid for because I got a grant or a scholarship. But yeah, I mean, I had to start working and figuring it out and making money for myself. And so at a young age, kind of had to start figuring it out on my own.
How do you look that time you spent like as a kid growing up in the, like you say, in the middle of nowhere? What feelings are evoked when you reflect on that time?
I didn't know this was going to turn into a therapy session.
Trauma.
I've got enough distance from it now that I've chosen to keep the good memories. Maybe we'll put it that way.
Okay.
But I have 3 older siblings, but 2 of them are like 5 and 6 years older, and so they left when I was pretty young to go to the same boarding school. And so it was just me and my brother, and like the town I grew up in had 25 people in it, maybe, and like 4 of them were our age-ish. So yeah, we spent a lot of time out in the summers just running around in the woods all summer by ourselves. And then the school system there, the public school system, is pretty terrible. We had good shop classes, so we had good like woodworking and metalworking and machine shop class. So we took a lot of those, learning how to build stuff, but also just, helping my dad swap engines and trucks to keep them alive longer. We had one engine, I think, that had a million kilometers on it that we just kept putting from one truck into the next.
Wow. So was that lifestyle, like, was that a choice by your family, or was that also out of necessity?
Yeah, no, my parents met and grew up in the Ontario area, like Toronto area, and then got married and like with the dream of moving out west on a Volkswagen van and building a cabin in the woods and like living off the land. So yeah, they did that.
The original off-grid.
Yeah, and they've lived it, like they've lived in 3 different houses, I guess. One that the kind of built up to a 4th house, if that makes sense, but all within a 10-minute drive of each other for the last 40 years.
Have you seen the movie Captain Fantastic?
No.
It reminds me of this. It's a good movie. It's like heartbreaking. It's basically Viggo Mortensen plays the dad of this family who basically live off the grid, and it's not quite what you're talking about. They live in the middle of the woods and they do everything themselves, but it's very joyful. Have
you seen the movie Revenant? It was more like that.
Well, anyway,
we had bears on our front porch, and
that's great.
Yeah.
In Captain Fantastic, the mom dies, and then her parents don't agree with this lifestyle, and there's this conflict between the dad and the grandparents, and
gotcha.
It's a tearjerker of a movie. But anyway, your story reminded me of that.
What's kind of funny is like, so Kika and I met in college, and then we can get into why we ended up on a boat soon, but the irony is that like we ended up on a boat, and I thought it was like the furthest thing away from the lifestyle that I grew up possible. And then my mom goes, "Oh, it's a floating log cabin." I was like, "Fuck."
Yeah, wow.
I was like, whoops. Damn it.
The apple doesn't fall far.
I was like, way to ruin my whole lifestyle.
Yeah.
So why did you guys, like, were either of you sailors?
No. Never been on a boat, never seen probably have seen pictures of sailboats, but like, you see pictures of a lot of things, but never decide that that's what you want to do with your life.
Yeah. So when we got together, the last year of architecture school, and we were thinking about what we're going to do after graduation. And I was very fortunate growing up that my parents could afford sending us to college. Mm-hmm. But there's kind of like this scripted life that we had where you go to university wherever your parents can afford to send you. Then you go back home, then you study, you get married, you live with your parents until you have a house. And then, there's a routine to all that. And so my parents expected me to come back home and work as an architect in Haiti. And I just didn't want to. I knew there was so much more in the world that I wanted to discover, that I was like, I don't want to end up being stuck in one place. And so when we got together and we were looking at what we wanted to do, we knew that we wanted to travel, both of us. And also because all of our favorite cities were port cities. And
we literally, I remember sitting down, I think it was like the last semester of thesis year, because we really fucked off a lot that semester. But I remember sitting down and being like, so when we graduate, like,
what's next?
Where do we want to live? And we just kind of like, we're just doing these weird creative like thought experiments of like, what are all the cities because we knew it wasn't going to be Atlanta, even though we probably could have gotten jobs there. And so we made like a list of like, it was like, oh, it'd be cool to like, go live in New York City, or go live in Vancouver, or go live in, Barcelona, or like any of these cool cities. And then we kind of looked at the list, and every single one of them was a port city. Yeah. And then we're like, so how do we live in all of these cities at the same time? and at some point we're going to do a bus, I think. But then we have to drive, and you have to park it, and like, because
before graduation we were working together. So as an international student, part of how you're able to stay longer in the country is doing internships, right? So if it's in the field of your study, and you have an extra year of extended student visa. And so I was looking at internships in downtown and all this stuff, and nobody had availability. And it's kind of the chicken and the egg, because they wanted you to already have experience, but you needed experience to get the job, but you needed the job to get experience, which is kind of weird.
It's a stupid system.
And so I was tired of going around the circle. And so I talked to Dan, and I was like, hey, I know you have this ongoing renovation business that you have. Like, can I come work for you?
Yeah.
Like,
so you were an intern with Dan Enterprises.
I started as like, it was Deckard Home Repair. I started as an intern, and
on paper. But she ran the paint crew like within a week.
And then and then we loved it. And so we ended up taking this, and we had this program. We had this what do you call it? A class.
There was actually like a profession. There was hours you could log towards this professional program thing, And so that last year, I actually had like probably 5 to 8 other students like in my class revolving through like painting and like helping lay drywall so that they could log hours towards their professional program.
And it counted.
But I couldn't log my own hours, which was stupid because like they were working for me, but I wasn't working for, another professional. Yeah, it was kind of fun.
But it was really fun because we started with, it was me and other students, and then we were taking on this like basement renovation. Yeah. And then after the summer, we started just working the two of us, and then we would get more interns as we go. And then on the last year, I was talking to my international advisor, and I was like, so is there another way to extend, staying an extra year with the same program? They're like, yes, you have to actually work under an actual business. And I was like, well, what if this business is mine? She's like, well, as long as you can prove that it's an actual business, it doesn't matter who owns it. And so I talked to him and was like, well, what if we just made this an actual LLC and then we own it? And that way I can work for myself. And that is kind of this crazy loophole that nobody knew about.
Well, in the last year as well, there's a class we take called like professional practice and ethics, I think. And one of the assignments in that class is to like start a business, quote unquote, to like go through the paperwork and like go through the process of filing for your licenses and all this stuff. And it's supposed to be an exercise that you just do as an exercise, but we just actually hit submit and paid the money to get the licenses. And so our professor was like, wait, you did what? We're like, yeah, we like that, like you get your logo and you design your web page and you do all that stuff. And we just like hit go at the end rather than crumpling it up and throwing it away. And he was like, I've never had students actually use this class to do anything useful.
Like actually making it happen. And to piggyback on that, it's funny because in this class, he was saying, to call yourself an architect, you have to go through all these exams and all these licenses and all this stuff. And you're not allowed to talk about certain things, and you have to follow specific rules. But if you call yourself an architectural consultant, then none of the rules apply to you. You just have to, if you have an actual project, you just have to hire an architect to stamp and approve that project. And then we're like, this is the easiest thing ever. We're just going to be architectural consultants, and we don't have to do the exams for every single city.
And we got one project in Haiti, so we called ourselves International Architectural Consultants.
Hell yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I got to ask.
Just tick that box.
Kika, I got to ask about Haiti, because like, for better or worse, I think America's idea of Haiti is very different than what you're describing. So like, excuse my ignorance for asking for the general population, but like, why do I have this, cruiser forums? Oh, it's not a place you go. Like, why do I have this idea of Haiti?
They eat cats and dogs, apparently.
And what? That aside, I didn't think of that.
There's that.
I didn't think of that. But like, so what is your lived experience of Haiti, and like, what's like, enlighten me.
Well, and we've cruised to Haiti too. We were in Haiti for 6 months on a sailboat.
I know some people who've cruised to Haiti as well. So
So,
but I think without being rude, like
now it's your therapy session.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you're gonna be the therapist in this moment now. But no, the Haiti of today and the Haiti that I grew up are two completely different countries. I have to say, I grew up in yes, there was always insecurities, there was always political damage, but it was relatively safe. Like we went to the mountains, we went hiking, we went to the beach. We were friends with locals. We were safe walking on the streets, going to grandma's house, which is like a 30-minute walk away in the middle of town. I never felt unsafe in that country. And we traveled all over the country. But since the earthquake, that was 2011. Since the earthquake,
11?
Yeah, 2011.
Yeah,
I think. Yes. No, 2010. Oh my goodness. January 11, 2010.
That's why,
there you go. Yeah. So since then, I think Haiti fell down onto this, vicious circle, and it just kept going down and it could never recoup from that, because it's one thing when you have one damage happens and then you recover and then you have another damage happens.
One bad president, then he gets removed and you get something better. If you have one thing, they can recover from it. But the earthquake kind of crippled.
Over the last 10 years, it was just one thing after another. It was a hurricane, then the earthquake, then politics, then this, then that. And so the Haiti never had the chance to bring itself back up. And then most recently but in the meantime, it was still trying. So it was still, you just had to know where to go. And people still sailed to Haiti. And we spent 6 months after graduation.
2016.
2016. We sailed to Haiti, spent 6 months there. It was such a beautiful experience because I lived in a country, but it was a different perspective. Right? I've never lived from the water looking in. I lived on the land looking out.
We also had the distinct advantage of having a Haitian on board who could speak Creole. And every time like the people would row out and be like, oh, a cruise boat, like, do you want to buy a lobster? $50. And she would laugh and then speak in Creole. And they're like, oh shit, you're Haitian. $4.
Yeah.
It was great.
And then we would make friends, and it was kind of easy for us because I was Haitian as well. So they kind of were.
It was so cool to see like a Haitian on a foreign boat, you know. Although none of them understood why they were like, but wait, you are from Haiti, you left Haiti, you went to America, like the promised land. And then you came back on a sailboat. Like people leave on sailboats all the time and get caught by the Coast Guard. Like it was really, you could see them like not be able to process this. They're like,
no, it was a very amazing experience. And then, but over the last couple of years, there's been this political unstableness.
It's like complete anarchy. There's no government. There's no
government anymore.
It's just gangs taking over.
The last president got assassinated, and then from there it was gangs taking over, trying to take over the countries, and they realized how lucrative the business of kidnapping became. And so,
and one gang is like backed by America, and one gang is like backed by Venezuela, probably, or something. Like it's all like this weird. It's just a total mess. It's now.
Everybody wants to be in control, but nobody wants to do nobody wants to clean the country up. Everybody wants to just show power. And so, and their version of showing power is just destruction. So just destroying everything, businesses, buildings, houses. They became so angry that they started murdering people for no reason. Like they would knock on your door. If you didn't give them like your watch, they would just kill you instead of, asking you for money and sending you away. So recently, I would agree. And normally I would always say, don't believe what you see in the news. Like Haiti is such a more beautiful country that you will never see in the news. And that was true 10 years ago. Starting 3-4 years ago, like every time that I want to go back home, my own family say, don't, because it's not safe.
Well, there's still no flights to Port-au-Prince because they shot at a Spirit Airlines and hit a stewardess or something when it was landing. And then for like the last year, they're like, no more flights.
Yeah, the airport has been closed for almost a year in Port-au-Prince. And so it's difficult to go in and out. And it is definitely not a safe country anymore. And it's very sad because I love my country and I want it to thrive.
Well, on the north coast of Haiti, like we started from Florida, we went through the Bahamas, but didn't really stop. And then we spent 6 months in Haiti. That was like our first like cruising experience. And then we did the rest of the Caribbean. And for having never been in any of those other islands, every time we went, we're like, this looks like Haiti. Like it's the same trucks, the same people, the same, cinder block buildings, the same kind of culture, the same open food markets. Like the north coast of Haiti looks exactly as beautiful as every other island we stopped at in the Caribbean, if not more so, because it's less populated.
Sure.
And so we're like, why aren't people stopping here?
I have my theory, and I might be completely wrong, but so I don't know if you know this, but Haiti was the first country in the world actually to abolish slavery.
To like fight for their freedom and win.
To actually win and get their independence from the colonists, right? And so, but the problem with that is when Haiti fought off the French to get their independence, everybody started to get scared because they didn't want Haiti to become, although it was
a beacon, like a shining light on a hill.
Yeah, they didn't want Haiti to become an example for people to follow. So they start shutting it, kind of like isolating it. They threw embargoes in Haiti. Yeah. Like we weren't allowed to export anything. We weren't allowed to import anything. Like we were.
Oh, you mean the rest of the world didn't want Haiti to be? The rest of the
world,
I see. Okay.
Like the first world colonist country.
Yeah, this was 200 years ago, and so they're all like, "Well, if everybody else sees that Haiti won, they're all just gonna like start rising up and taking over. We can't have that happen. So let's showcase how bad it is if you try to fight for your freedom rather than how good it is."
The first big thing was that France gave Haiti, said, "Okay, you know what? You fought us off. You gain your independence. Fine, we don't recognize you as a country, and on top of that, you owe us, like I think it was 15 million francs back in 1800s, right?
Which is like billions of
billions
dollars
now. For reparations. It's like, because you killed a lot of our people and you're going to pay up.
I know.
Right? It's like, it should be the opposite. Like, you enslaved us and you want us to pay you.
And it was like 20 years ago that they finally canceled the loan because Haiti was paying into France for like the last 200 years. Yeah. It was like in the mid 90s, I think, that they were like, oh, fine, I guess maybe you don't have to pay off the rest of your loan.
Yeah. And so for
your
debt,
like, basically, it wasn't a loan. It was
for
debt.
decades, Haiti struggled, you know, whatever they made in their country was to pay off the debt, not necessarily to grow their own economy. And I think you found out recently that the states, there's a bank in the states that actually bought off the debt so that Haiti pays off to them instead.
Citibank purchased all the debt from France so that they could basically own all the debt in Haiti and control it, like not too long ago. And that was actually like in cahoots with the U.S. Marines. Went down and like secured Haiti so that the banks could come in and own all the like it's
That's
such a mess
up.
and it's
wow. I mean, it sounds right though, right?
Country.
Like sounds about right.
Yeah, and so since Haiti got their independence, it's like we've been punished, right? And so it's in the best interest of all the higher countries to keep Haiti as low as possible, while the other countries that kind of, you know, gained their independence a little later are still in good relationship with the colonists that they had. And it's unfortunate because Haiti did help so many countries fight off as well,
including Greece. Apparently,
we went to Greece last year, and some person saw and that I was Haitian. He's like, "Wow, I have to say thank you on behalf of an entire country." And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Because your country helped us, you know,
win their independence or something,
gain our independence." And
like some war like a while ago, and we're like, "What?"
How?
Yeah.
You know,
wow. Okay.
Instagram didn't exist back then.
yeah,
really.
It's kind of wild, but it is a really weird like. Haiti's not a very big country. They don't have like some amazing natural resource that people are fighting over. The U.S. already controls the Windward Passage with Guantanamo. Like we just keep looking at it going like, why? Like, why do people care so much? Just like leave them alone, you know, because it's all this foreign pressure to like keep Haiti down. Because like if Haiti was left to its own devices, it'd be fine. It has a good soil. It's got good environment. It's got beautiful waterfall. Like if Haiti could have tourists come in, it would be every bit as good as the Dominican Republic or
it's the
Puerto
same
Rico.
island. I mean, it's literally the same island. Like, come on.
And the waterfalls are beautiful and the beaches are beautiful and the water's warm and there's plenty of fish. Like, it's so weird that it's literally shares a border with the Dominican Republic and it's two completely different places.
Yeah.
Treated completely differently too. The same island, if you have a passport from Dominican Republic versus a passport from Haiti, you get treated differently, which is wild.
Yeah. And having a Haitian passport, for her having a Haitian passport has been like the hardest part of the last 10 years for us and traveling with it. Because like as a Canadian with a Canadian passport, I thought visas were a thing you needed if you wanted to work in a country or go to school in a country, but not to visit a country because I've never needed one. Like I can fly everywhere in the world and I just show up, they stamp. I don't have anxiety going through Customs and Border Patrol, right? Ever. I never think once that I'm going to get denied. But with her and a Haitian passport, we've gotten turned around and denied and not allowed in. And like every time we go through customs now, it's like, I hope they let me in.
Yeah.
Because if you have the visa, they can still deny it.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific story about that, Kika?
For
an example of getting denied, like
which one do you want?
pick
I have a handful. So
pick your favorite
first. So
I want to tie it back into the refit. Bring this all back around.
Oh, we can talk about the most recent one. Yeah, so sure. we have a bunch of
recent one.
This is probably like an exclusive.
That's gonna be a very we don't. I think our patrons know this story already, but we've never publicly talked about it. So when we came to Italy to do our refit, so my brain is a little bit scattered. Sorry. I'm going to go back a little bit more. When we made it to Gibraltar before the refit, one thing that we decided to do was do our STCW course. And because that gives you access to a seaman's book. And the cool thing about a seaman's book is that it gives you the rights as a seafarer, not just a random Haitian on a boat.
Not like a tourist.
You're not treated as a tourist anymore. You're treated as a professional crew on a vessel. And because you have this book, you can go to a country and to the port, and they stamp your book, and you're allowed to stay wherever the boat is. So at the very least, even if I didn't have the visa for that place, I could stay and I could do groceries. I could, help fix the boat, and then we can leave after.
On paper, like, I'm the owner of the boat because it's registered in Canada, and then she is the captain of the boat, so she can walk in and be like, "I'm the captain, and you have to let me stay on my boat because I'm, and
the
so
boat can't move without me." And
it's worked quite well, actually. It gives her like a legal standing that's not just because if you don't have that on a sailboat, you're just a tourist.
Right.
And if you do have it, you're like, I'm a captain on a yacht, and they treat you completely differently.
Yes. And the cool thing is, you don't, before when we visited countries, we would go personally to the custom and immigration office, say we're here, here's our paperwork, here's our passport, here's our visas if we needed one. But with the Seaman's Book, you deal with agents. You don't even go to the immigration, which is a big relief for me because every single time my hand would just shake.
Oh, and yacht agents are the best because they're like concierge at a fancy hotel, right? Because they're used to dealing with really rich people with really big budgets so their customer service is on like top tier level. And then we walk in and we're like, "Can you clear us in?" And they're like, "Yep." And they take it and they walk across the street. 5 minutes later, they come back with stamps. You pay them like €100 or €150 and you go home. Yeah. It's the coolest thing ever. They'll come to your boat and pick up your documents. And so we never have to see customs officials ever.
Yeah. So I had the joy of experiencing this once, which was when we were in Mallorca. Because, and it's also a small island. So we're like, yeah, you're here. You don't have restriction to stay within, a few miles of your boat because it's an island. It's a small island. You go wherever you want. You're fine.
Yeah. And so we were able to stay in Mallorca for 6 months without Schengen rules, like flying in and out for 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's where it got interesting. We left Mallorca and decided to do our refit in Sardinia, knowing that is the same rules that apply. We're going to come with our seafarers. We're going to be fine because the boat is here.
Yeah.
We make it to Italy. We talk to the agents here, and then they say, "Oh, actually, starting a month ago, because we sailed here in February, and it was in January they started this new rule that any boat that is in Italian waters, their crew members need a specific visa, which is called like the maritime D visa. As long as you enter Italian waters, you need that visa." And we're like, "Okay, so where do we get that visa? Can we start the process of doing this?" And they're like, "No problem. We'll give you the appointments." The best embassy to do this was they had a really good relationship with the Italian embassy in Croatia.
Because you had to get the visa from outside of Italy. So it didn't matter if it was another Schengen country. It could be Germany. But but part of the problem was that they just announced this in a month. And there's, I don't know, let's just say 100,000 yacht crew in Italy because it's a very popular place to winterize a boat. And so all of them, all of a sudden, needed to go get this visa. So every embassy was backlogged for months.
Yeah. And so they got us an appointment at the embassy in was Zagreb?
Croatia. Yeah, in Zagreb.
In Croatia. And in the message, I asked, I was like, "But the problem is I came in with my seafarer's visa. I don't have a Schengen visa because I've been stamped with my seafarer's book. So how does that work?" And then they reply, "Well, you don't have a problem because Croatia just became Schengen, and so it counts like domestic flights. You can fly over. There's no border control. There's no immigration. You just go as if you were flying to Rome, right? It's like taking domestic flights in the States. You don't really need a visa for every city."
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Okay, that's perfect. We don't need to drive over. We're just gonna book our flights, go over there, spend 1 day, get our visa, and then the next day, so like maximum 3 days, we're going to be in Croatia." So we went to the airport. First, it felt a little bit odd that they still asked us for our passports, but I was like, well, they need ID anyway, right? Like they need to make sure that your ticket is the face of the person that's in your paper. And so we got our tickets printed. We got on the flight, flew to Croatia, landed, and then realized that there are lines for border control. They're like, "Wait, what's going on? This is supposed to be Schengen." And so the entire time I was like, "It's fine. Maybe it's just like, just check, regular check. It's fine." And so we went through, and then they took Dan's passport. They're like, "Okay, blah, 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 stamp." We're like, "Why do you need a stamp?" And then they gave it back. They took my passport. They looked. They're like, "Do you have a visa for Croatia?" I said, "No." It's like, "Okay. And you don't have a visa for Italy or a Schengen visa?" I was like, "No, I'm picking up my visa tomorrow.
Literally here to get a visa.
I'm here. I have an appointment at the embassy. Here's my appointment paperwork. Here's the time. Here's the ship. We give all the paperwork. They're like, unfortunately, we can't let you through because this is still international border. And I was like, what do you mean? You guys are Schengen, aren't you? They're like, yes, we are. It's like, so why is there a border? It's like, well, the airport hasn't really changed their systems yet. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, yeah, well, we have a lot of like things we need to move around logistically. So by train is Schengen, by car is Schengen, by boat is Schengen.
Walk, bike, everything except fly.
But flying is still counting as international until up to, I think, a week from now.
Yeah, it was a month.
It was a month from now?
Yeah.
So we were a month off. And
Oh,
like,
man.
How was this not communicated to us by the international ship agents that we were working with as used to doing this? And so I was like, okay, no problem. So what's the next step? Like, can we just like wait here for the next flight and we'll just, leave?
Yeah.
And they're like, unfortunately, no, like he's already stamped in. So if he was to come back through the airport, he has to leave and then stamp back out. But you can't leave because there's no airport, there's no airplane that leaves today. And you have to leave with the same airline and the same flight that you came in with. So
that's what we found out is that like if you end up in a country that you're not allowed to be in, it's actually the airline's fault for letting you on the flight.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they're responsible for you to get you back out of that country. And unfortunately, this was Ryanair.
Which is the Spirit airline version of Europe.
Yeah.
The worst.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I feel like if it was like KLM, they would have sent a jet. But
yeah, really.
Yeah. And then so they're like, okay, follow me. We'll send you to your hotel room, which was in the back. And it was literally a jail cell. Like,
were you two separated at this point?
Yeah.
Yes, he wasn't allowed to be with me. So they took all my stuff and they said I'm allowed to grab like a little toiletry bag with me. And they sent me in this room that had like bunk beds. Like it's literally a prison cell.
Yeah.
And they closed the door behind me and then it was locked. And I was like, okay. So I had no idea what was going on.
Did you keep her phone?
I was going to say, did you have your phone? Could you communicate?
Yes, they let me keep my phone and then had to bargain with one of the security guards to send a charger for me because I didn't have a charger. And then they're like, so unfortunately, Miss Mevs, you're going to be here for about a week because the next flight to I think it was Rome or Milan.
Because they're required to get you back to the place that they picked you up at, which was Italy.
Which was Rome.
Rome.
And so they were like, the next flight to Rome by Ryanair is in 7 days. So you're going to be here for 7 days. I'm like, I can't be here for 7 days.
What?
Yeah. And so, literally a prison cell.
And so we've spent... Like poor Dan, like Dan also. I even asked. I begged. I was like, "Listen, I have my
Dan. You're the one in the freaking jail cell."
Well, I was the one on the phone with trying to get a number to Ryanair for 12 hours. Customer service.
Yeah, which is worse.
I don't think I cried so much in my life, but I called the security guys and I begged. And I was like, listen, I have my appointment at the embassy tomorrow. Put me in a police car. Put me in handcuffs.
Yeah.
Take me to my appointment so that when I go back to Italy, I have my visa. Because then what happens? And they're like, no, unfortunately, you cannot leave this room until you fly out. And I was like, okay, so what happens when I get back to Italy? Because
you don't have a visa.
I don't have a visa.
Oh, shit,
And then Croatia, they're not, I wouldn't say they're the nicest like communicators, the people that worked at the airport, because they have a job to do and they're very, straight to the point. So they're not going to be nice to you. They're going to be like, this is the rule, I
deal with it.
And we asked like, can we talk to your supervisor or your boss or the person in charge of immigration here? It's like, you're talking to me. And it was a woman. So of course she wanted to be, she show her position. So there was no arguing. There was no debating with them at all. So I had no choice. And so in the meantime, I tried to call the Haitian embassy as well, because when you're in trouble, you call your country.
Right.
And your country should help you take care of the situation you're in. The Haitian embassy, I called. The lady answers, super nice. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry about your situations. Well, the ambassador is going to be in a few hours. I will tell him about it. I will have him call you back at this number. Don't worry. And then we hang up. Hours go by. No phone call. A day go by. no phone call. I call again. The phone number doesn't exist. I was like, what is happening?
Oh my gosh.
I try to email. The email doesn't go through. Like, they literally shut me off.
Like, we have a citizen in danger. Delete all files.
Delete.
Shut the embassy down.
I think
Shred the paperwork.
They might have blocked the number because, like, of course, their number still works as the embassy number, but I couldn't get through anybody. And the emails didn't get through. Nobody would answer my emails. And at some point, I was like, okay, so here's going to be the stupid circle. They're going to send me back to Rome. They're going to process me. It's going to be the same problem because I don't have the visa
now
to
you're
stay.
dealing with Italians.
And they're going to say, well, you have to go back to Croatia because that's the airplane that brought you here.
Oh
and it's going to be either this back and forth until somebody's going to say, well, if you don't have a visa for either one, we're going to deport you back to your country and you're going to go back to Haiti. And that's when Haiti was starting to really go south.
And there's no direct flights to Haiti, so she would have had to go through the United States without a visa.
Which would have been an issue.
Would have ended up in an ice camp somewhere.
And then I was so lost. I was so exhausted. I didn't shower for 4 days. And I had this Russian roommate that got kept because she falsified a passport to come through.
So she was legit in trouble.
Yeah,
she was legit in trouble.
Fake Schengen visa, and then they caught her. And put her in the same jail cell.
And I was like, I'm just trying to do the right thing here.
Yeah.
I could have just not come at all, and I'd be fine. It's like I need my visa. And unfortunately, Dan couldn't pick it up for me as you have to be at the embassy in person, right?
Sure.
So in the meantime, like I got my visa and, dealt with Ryanair because Ryanair would just refuse to take responsibility for anything. We're like, no, the airport says that you're responsible for this. Like we have a flight booked back to Italy tomorrow. Like put her on this flight. It was just so much bullshit. And Ryanair was like, not our problem, not our problem. Like, no, it is. Here's the law that says it's your problem. Not our problem, not our problem. They never took responsibility once.
And we even, because I have a visa for the UK and I have a visa for Canada, like tourist visas, right? And they were still valid. And so I was like, listen, I have a visa for the UK. I noticed there is a flight to the UK in 2 days. Put me on that flight. That way I know when I land, I am safe in a country that I'm allowed to be in. And then they're like, they said yes. They're like, okay, I think that would work. We talked to Ryanair. They agreed to do this.
We bought the plane ticket. Your flight is at 4:00 tomorrow afternoon. Okay, we wait. We got two will come and get you. And
I'm ready. I put like a little, sailor's shower. And and then at 4:00, nobody comes pick me up. 4:30, nobody comes picking me up. 5 p.m., the officer comes back. So like, I'm sorry, it didn't work out. You obviously you missed your flight. You're still here until your Ryanair flight, on Friday. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You gave me so much hope. You didn't even tell me before the flight.
Yeah.
I was so lost. And I started researching. I was like, you know what, then I can't do this anymore. We're going to find a different way. We're going to go to Canada. I'm done with this. we're going to buy a boat in Canada and I'm going to move there for the rest of my life until I get a passport in 20 years, whatever. And I was serious. We started looking at Craigslist. I was bookmarking all the path that we were going to go with. We found a boat that we were going to buy.
I got to say, I believe you're serious because this is Mia's worst nightmare because she's an American citizen now, but she wasn't. And we were traveling back and forth a lot. And she's been taken into the little room a million times. And she also she can't go like you. I mean, it's worse for you because at least she has a Swedish passport, but she can't go through. So if she would hear this story, she'd be sweating. So I understand that you're serious about this.
Yeah. It's not fun.
It's this every single time we enter a country. So it's this every 10 times a year for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Yeah.
So
this is the first quarter of the story.
Oh my God.
How much time do we have?
No, this is great. Hey, podcast long form content, man. This is great.
You can just split it into a 2-part, to be continued. Yeah. What happens next?
Ostensibly, we came here to talk about the refit of your boat, and here we are an hour later.
This is the start of the refit. This is why it's taken us 2 years, because this was the start.
Yeah, this was where we were just demolishing. So we were at the point where we couldn't just say, okay, Dan's going to go back and sail the boat somewhere else. We already had committed to demolish everything.
Oh, so the boat was already taken apart.
We got here and started taking the boat apart the day we got here because we were if we don't start, we're not going to do it. And so and it took 2 or 3 weeks to get the paperwork sorted out and the ship and the marina and blah, blah, blah. So this was probably a month after we arrived. We were going to get our visas. And so the boat was completely torn apart. We had 4 bulkheads left.
Mm-hmm. And and so we are in Croatia still. And finally, days go. I think it was like 4 nights at the airport sale. And finally, they're like, "Okay, we've got you a flight." Because the flight back to Rome was going to be in 7 days, but in 4 days they came to me. They're like, "Hey, pack up your stuff. Your flight is leaving in an hour."
We have
like,
your
what
flight
do you mean?
back to Italy.
Like we've talked to Ryanair. We convinced them they're going to put you in a flight to Milan, which is today. And I was like, "Wait, which flight to Milan?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, it's flight so and so and so." And they're like, "Well, it's the exact same flight that we had booked to go back with our visas."
She already had a ticket for that flight, you fuckers.
And I was like, "Thank you, Ryanair, for doing this." Anyway. So then, well, I'm happy because finally, like, at least we're going to be on the same airport, right? The same airline. And so we board the flight, and it was the most interesting experience I think I've ever had, because I felt I was escorted by like 4 police officers, and I felt like partially a celebrity and partially a terrorist, because I felt like a celebrity because I was wearing all black. I had my hat on, and people were looking at me like, "Who is this?"
Sunglasses on because her eyes were bright red from crying for 4 days.
And I had my backpack. I was just like this tiny person, with like hiding, and then 4 big police officers just like escorting me to the front of the line.
Yeah.
And then everybody was staring, and I'm like, okay, if I act confident, people are going to think I'm a celebrity. They're not going to think I'm being deported. And so I just played the role. I was like smiling and whatever. But they put me on the plane, and they put me in the back. And the funny thing is, like, I wasn't allowed to carry my own paperwork. They put my passport in an envelope. They sealed that envelope and gave it to the captain of the plane.
Oh, wow.
It's kind of like this super covert, like just things you see in movies.
Just in case you like jump out the window with the parachute and then you can land with your passport. Like, I don't know how, like...
Or run out with the passengers. So they landed me in the back of the plane at the very, very back with my own row. And I called the stewardess over, and I was like, "Listen, I had booked this flight before, so I have my seat next to my husband, which is like, halfway forward of the plane." And then they're like, "Well, this is to keep an eye on you. We kind of have to keep you in the back." And I was like, "What do you want me to do? I'm exhausted. I'm going to sleep. I'm not going to open the door and fly out of the plane midair."
And you hadn't seen Dan in 4 days, right?
I still haven't seen Dan.
We saw each other at the airport. I saw her surrounded by the police officers, and I kind of like picked up my phone. I was filming, and the officers looked over and they're like, "Delete that footage, turn that off." Like, they got all mad at me for filming, and I was like,
"Oh shit,
sorry."
Yeah,
I didn't delete it though.
Well, it's funny because she called
I did that thing where like you delete it and show them you delete it, but it goes into your recently deleted, and then I just like brought it back out again. I was like, we all know that's a thing, right? Yeah, she came over and like watched me delete it. It was really funny.
That's great.
But I'll send you the picture. But it's hilarious because they put me in the back. They didn't allow me to move because apparently it's a safety concern. And so I was like, you know what? I'm too tired to argue. I'm just going to fall asleep. And then midway on the plane, I wake up and Dan is next to me.
Yeah.
Because he was like, fuck it, there's nobody next to me. So he's just moved and he came next to me. And that was kind of like this giant relief that I had. At least part of the anxiety was gone because we were on the same flight.
We're like, at least we'll be able to go through Italian customs together and explain the situation.
Exactly. We'll have the same story. You can back me up. We have, I don't know any Italian, but surely they'll be able to understand our story. We land in Milan, and then we are ready to get off the plane. Dan's waiting with me, ready to get off along with me because I got escorted out of the plane too. And they looked at it and they're like, "Unfortunately, you have to go with all the other passengers because you have to be stamped in like a normal
like
tourist."
3 police officers that came onto the airplane to take her off first before everybody else got off. So it's like 3 police officers and her walking through the whole plane while everyone else had to stay sitting down.
Jesus.
It's like a walk of shame.
Wow.
I know.
Like for why? Like there's no reason. It's just And then so I get off the plane. I get followed. I follow the officers to this little room where they get me to sit and just wait while everybody is just going through the lines and, clearing in and clearing in. And then I sit. I think I waited like maybe 20 minutes, and I could hear them in the back. I didn't know much Italian back then, but I could hear they're talking about a boat. They're talking about a Haitian passport. I know they're talking about me. It's just a matter of like calling me over to ask me questions. And so I'm gearing up. I'm like, okay, like at some point I'm going to have to to plead my case and do whatever it takes, cry. I don't care. I have to do something for them to not send me back to Haiti. I'm not going to say the word Haiti the entire time. So after about 30 minutes of waiting, they finally called me over, and then I entered the room. There's like 4 officers like around a table, and there's all my documents on the table as if it's like a police case. And they looked at me and they're like, "So, Miss Mevs, explain. Can you? We don't understand what happened here. Can you please explain to us?" And I was like, "Okay." And then they're like, "Oh, sit down." So I sat down, and it was like the best TED Talk I think I've ever done, because I explained everything that happened. Like, I didn't miss a single information, as truthfully as I could say it, from Gibraltar with the CW and the fire
literally
exercise.
we didn't do anything wrong.
We didn't.
We arrived on a seafarer's boat. We were going to go get a visa. Like everything we were doing was completely above board and not shady at all.
You're trying to follow. It would have been easier if you hadn't followed the rules in one way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I explained my case. I tell the whole story, starting with the agent that booked the flight, the agency booked the flights too.
Yeah.
And they booked the appointment to the embassy. And so they were like, okay.
And in the email chain, it was like, "Are you sure we don't need a visa to go to Croatia?" And the answer was like, "No, Croatia is Schengen." And we're like, okay, like that's all in an email chain.
Yeah,
and I explained to us, and he was like, "Okay, can you give me proof of that conversation?" And so I pull up the email chain, I show it to him, and like, "Here you go. Like, this is exactly," because I was trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And I'm used to immigration, so I wanted to make sure. And so he's like, "Okay, can you give me the number of the agent that dealt with your situation?" I was like, "Sure." I'm sure they're going to ask him questions to make sure that my story is true. And so he picks up the phone, dials the number, and as soon as somebody picks up, he started like basically schooling the I was so happy. He's like, "How?" Basically in Italian, he was like, "How dare you? This poor innocent person went through. It's known your better. Yeah, it's your responsibility. Your professionalism is to make sure that this crew member
That's
goes
literally their
where
job.
they need to go.
Yeah, as
it's
an
their
agent.
job.
Yeah.
And so I could feel my relief. I was like, okay, good. They're going to let me through. They're
At least
going to
they're
say
sort of on her side.
They're nice. They're on my side. And then the entire time, as I'm telling the story, more and more officers are coming into the room. Like, I think there's in the end, like 12 people just like sitting, listening to me.
You gotta hear this.
It's like, oh my God, this is the best story of the year. And then,
well, also they've never seen a captain of a yacht that looks like her before. You know what I mean? Like, it's very unstereotypical.
Yeah, and it's like, "What do you mean you're the captain?" I was like, "Yeah, I had to explain." It's like, "No, I'm captain of this vessel, and the vessel cannot move without me. I have to be there to make sure the refit goes well. Like, I have to be there." And they're like, "Wow, okay." And then with my big confidence voice, which I've learned in SCTW to be the confident big boss, and then, big dick energy, so to speak. And then they were listening to me. They're like, "Okay, I understand that you're kind of a victim in the situation. It's really not your fault. You were trying to do the right thing. We get it. But we still can't let you in."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Why?" It's like, "Because we have rules to follow, and we have immigration laws. Unfortunately, we can't make this an exception."
We're on an island and it's another flight, right? Like, I feel like maybe if we had landed back in Rome and the boat was near the water, they may have just been like, "We'll escort you to your boat and make sure you leave the country." But because it was a whole nother flight, they were like, "We can't guarantee that the customs officer at the other end of the next flight is going to be understanding." It's not a rule that,
And I asked, "Can you have maybe a letter, maybe a letter from one of your office, sign it, say hey, this is the situation, let her through." They're like, "Unfortunately, we can't do that. We can't give you a signed letter." They don't have that kind of
power.
It's about it's always the same situation every time we get a visa. You can get the visa, but it's the person at the immigration office that is basically giving you the green light of passing through.
Yep.
It doesn't guarantee entry. Visas don't guarantee entry.
That's why I was always making friends with immigration officers whenever I travel for school, because even if I knew, I would always make friends and be smiling and make conversation and stuff. But anyway, so they couldn't let me in. So they're like, instead of telling me what to do, they looked at me and they're like, "So what do you want to do?" And I'm like, I'm not going to say Haiti. I'm not going to say Haiti. I'm like, oh, well, I have a visa to the UK.
Yeah.
I can go there right now if there's a flight.
I can get my Italian visa there.
I can get my Italian visa there and then come back, right?
Yeah.
Because there is an Italian embassy there.
And Dan,
And they're
meanwhile,
like, okay.
did you know any of this was going on? Like, did you know what was happening?
No, but like I kind of had a sixth sense.
We have a telepathy thing going on where
like-
he knew what was happening.
When she told me the story, none of it surprised me in a way, right? Because I was like, they're not going to kick you back to Haiti and they're not going to send you back to Croatia. Like, best case, they let you go back to the boat. That would be nice. But so I made it out of the airport, out of security, like really quick because I have a Canadian passport. So they're like, you scan it, they take your picture, you walk out. They don't even stamp your passports anymore. And so I was out there going like, basically running through the same thing. I'm like, they're not going to kick her back to Haiti. They're not going to go to Croatia. Best case, we get on our flight back to Olbia from Milan. Worst case, she has a Canadian visa and a UK visa. So I'm like looking up flights to the UK at the same time that she's like, hey, I've got a UK visa. And so I literally texted her. I'm like, there's a flight for the UK that leaves in 45 minutes. Should I buy tickets? And then I looked up and she's getting like escorted out of a gate being like, hey, there's a flight to the UK in 45 minutes. We need to buy tickets. And I'm like, got it. And I'm like,
Wow.
press buy on the phone. Like,
Damn.
It's funny because we in the office when I said no, if there's a flight to the UK, I will board like now.
yeah.
And then they're like, okay, there is a flight, but you will have to go to the actual office because
have to pick up a ticket.
You have to print it, and we have your passport, and so we have to make sure that you can get printed. And so I was like, okay, so how do we get there? And they're like it's a pretty long ways away. And then this little officer guy was like, I'm gonna volunteer, I'm gonna escort her, we're gonna run, we're gonna get there. And I'm like, okay, that's good. So this one officer and me were just running through all the VIP doors you can think of, just like
the
all the doors
security
open.
badge doors that get you through
And I
airports
was like,
without.
this is the coolest thing I've ever, like, and in the light of situation, right? Like silver lining and stuff. But we make it to the counter. Den is already there. Den already bought the tickets. We just have to print the actual boarding passes.
Like they check your passport, print the boarding pass, right?
Yeah.
And
sure.
then
And they're like, check bags. We're like, nope, this was supposed to be a 3-day trip. We have this backpack.
And so
between
he's
the
like,
two of us.
And the officer turns around. He's like, okay, Mr. Deckard, you have to go through normal security check. And I was like, you, Miss Mevs, you have to come with me because we still have to make a copy of your passport. And they had all my paperwork with them still, my seaman's book and all the boat
And at that
paperwork.
point, like we bought our tickets while the flight was basically boarding. I'm
It
not
was
really even
already
sure why
boarding.
they let us buy them.
Damn.
And so then went through security. Luckily, security was mostly empty. I ran through all the doors again to go back to that office so that they can give me all my paperwork so I can grab my bag and then ran back. And I made it to the plane and we were literally the last people on
they closed
on
the doors
plane.
behind us. But she made it again out of some double-decker, like double door as I was like making it to the gate. And she just showed up. I'm like, I guess we're getting on the plane. She's like, I guess we're getting on the plane.
And then he's like,
Wow.
oh, cool. Like I had a bottle of water with me that they gave me at the office because, they're nice. And then he's like, oh, cool. They let you through with the bottle through
Like,
security. And I was like, what security?
Yeah.
I never went through any checks.
Yeah.
It just went through straight through.
Well, I mean, you were in custody for 4 days, so
Yeah, exactly.
guess
Straight
that
out of the
counts.
plane. So
Yeah.
it's not like
Yeah.
I had time to do anything else.
Damn.
But yeah, we got on the plane to the UK.
Yeah.
And then she just slept
I
for
just
4
slept.
hours because
But
at least
then-
we're going to a country she was allowed to be in.
So that's halfway through the story now.
Wow.
But then
So this is 1 month into our refit.
Yeah. This was
damn.
this was March, right?
Yeah.
It was in March. And so we land in the UK, and I'm just so relieved. I'm like, okay, this is going to be so good because we're going to land there. We're going to book a hotel. We already have our favorite place that we go to.
We've been in and out of London a lot, so
We're just going to book an appointment with the Italian embassy as urgency, get our visa, come back, and then everything will be forgotten, basically. And immigration in the UK was a breeze because I have my visa. They asked me why we're here, and we laughed.
The freaking guy
Yeah.
goes like, oh, I've never seen a Haitian passport before. Stamp. We're like,
If everybody
Wow.
had your...
Yeah,
And he's like,
really.
why are you here? I was like, the weather.
yeah,
Yeah.
literally. She
Yeah.
was he laughed, stamped the passport because the weather in the UK is shit. Yeah, it was really funny actually.
So we landed in the UK. I was like, this is great. And then we go to the hotel, and the first thing that I do, I go to the hotel room. I put like a robe on, a towel. I go back downstairs, and I was like, can somebody please put this? Because I only had one outfit for like a week and a half at this point.
Yeah.
I smelled so bad. And I didn't shower for the entire time I was there.
4 or 5 days.
I felt bad for anybody at the airplane because and so I go to the counter. And I was like, is there a laundry service? Can you please like take care of this for me because I cannot wear this again. And they're like, okay, no problem. It's going to be there ready tomorrow. We're going to send it and it's going to come back for you tomorrow afternoon. I was like, okay, perfect. I go to the room. I tried to get an appointment at the Italian embassy. There's no appointment at the Italian embassy because you have to go through this third-party service called like VSF Global. It's like this agency that deals with all the visas.
Yeah.
Basically to make it more convenient.
It's just a money grab.
But anyway, I tried to make an appointment there. There was no available dates like for months and months and months. I think the first available was 6 months from now.
It didn't even show availability. It was like no availability for the next 3 months.
Yeah,
like,
check back later. Thanks,
tomorrow.
bye.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. I was like, we're just going to show up. We're going to show up at the front door, knock, see it's an emergency. This is our situation. Let's talk to someone. Like, we're going to put our foot down. And then I realized I have no clothes. How am I going to go? I'm not going to go with a towel. And so
I didn't have any clothes either. We were supposed to be gone for 2.5 days.
Yeah.
So Dan stays at the hotel. I borrow his shirt and shorts. I walk down. Luckily, there's like this outdoor store next door. I walk to the outdoor store. I looked at the guy. I was like, I need a shirt. I need pants. I need socks. And I just need I need to wear it now.
You need to wear it out of the store.
Out of the store. And that's exactly what I did. I went in, changed, paid for everything that I had on me. And then I walked out, picked up Dan. And then we went to the visa office.
You literally just went and knocked on the door.
I literally went to knock on the door, and there was already a super long line because there's always there's appointments there for all sorts of visas, so there's always people.
The UK and most yacht crew are either like South African, UK, Australian.
Yeah.
And so us and 400 other people were all trying to get the same visa at the same embassy.
Oh, because of this same visa problem in Italy. Yeah.
It's the same. Yeah, it was the same for anybody that worked on a boat.
There's literally had a list of like countries that could get emergency appointments, and he had like crossed off Italy.
Yeah.
They were like, nope, that embassy's booked. Like, you don't get emergency appointments.
And I was like, so what do we do? Like, can we talk to someone? He's like, no, the best thing you can do is keep checking the website. Yeah. And maybe there's somebody that's going to not show up or somebody's going to cancel an appointment. I was like, I can't live at a hotel in London indefinitely. Like,
we'll go broke in a week.
There's no way I can do that. We still had a marina that we were paying for. We had an apartment that we were paying for.
We had a rental car we were paying for.
We had a rental car that we were paying for.
We pulled into a marina to start the demo of the boat, and the marina was like, whatever trash you have, leave it at the end of the dock and we'll take it. And we're like, what about a bulkhead? They're like, whatever trash you have, we'll take it. So we were just taking parts of our boat out and leaving them at the end of the dock, and they were taking them.
Oh my God.
But that marina had like an apartment complex nearby, and this was February, so the apartment was like $900 a month, and we're like, let's just rent the apartment, let's move everything out of the boat, we'll sort it out there, we'll decide what we're keeping and what we're not. This was only supposed to be a 3-month refit because we were supposed to rip out a little bit, fix a problem, put it back, and then keep going because we didn't know about this visa when we got here.
And we had a rental car because we were using it to move things back and forth,
and we had an apartment full of everything that came out of the boat.
Yeah.
And now you're stuck in England.
And now we're stuck in
England with
Where
all
was
this.
Did you have the truck as well? Where was that?
No. We didn't know about the truck yet.
Okay.
We thought we could stay in an apartment during the entire refit, right? That was back then.
Yeah.
And so we were supposed to return the car, I think, the day that we were landed in the UK. And we're like, we can't just keep paying every day for that car.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, so what's the next move? So I was like, well, my last option is I still have a visa for Canada.
And we have family in Canada, so like, we could like send her there and she can stay there until we sort this out. And we're not spending $200 a night at a hotel or whatever.
I was like, maybe from Canada, I can email embassies in Italy and say my situation, and maybe they're going to let me apply for the Italian visa.
That's best case. Worst case, she just goes to Canada and stays there, and then
never comes back.
Go and buy a new. Like that's where our brains were at. We're like, well, you could go to Canada if you get a visa. Cool, we can come back, and if not, we'll just walk away from this half-empty boat and get a new one. And like, we couldn't bring the boat back to Canada. I mean, at that point, it wouldn't have even been worth putting it on a ship. It was an empty piece of shit hull. Like,
Yeah.
we would have just scrapped it in Italy and bought something else in Canada. Like we were 99% sure that she was never going to see Uma again, and she was just going to go to Canada, and we were just going to buy some like $3,000 boat in Vancouver and start again from the beginning.
Start
and it
over.
was just
because I emailed the embassies. I emailed a bunch of Italian embassies all over Canada, and a lot of them got back to me saying, unfortunately, we only give this visa to Canadian citizens or Canadian residents. I was like, shit, I'm not either one of them. And I was like, what if the boat is Canadian? What if the owner is Canadian? And they're like, unfortunately, we only give visas to Canadian residents or citizens. I was like, and he's like, well, you could reach out to them in person or call them, but there's a chance you have to be in Canada to do this. And I was like, okay, I'm booking my flight to Canada tomorrow, and then that's my last option, might as well try. And so, but we realized that Dan can't come with me because he has to go and settle the car and the apartment and maybe pack a bag for me to start a new life somewhere, because I had nothing.
Jesus.
Pack at least the cameras and the SD cards and all this stuff, right?
Yeah, really.
And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go to Canada. I hope I see you soon. Or I see you soon and we start over.
So that morning, Kika boarded a flight to Canada to go live with my brother, who she hadn't seen or met in 7 years or something.
Yeah, I met them once. And then a call happened. It was like, hey, can I come live with you for some time?
Yeah, like,
who knows
when?
how long?
Tomorrow, actually.
Yeah.
And I flew back to Olbia to return a rental car, pack up the apartment, move everything out into a storage unit, and then turn around and fly to Canada like 2 days later.
Yeah. So in the meantime, I'm in Canada and I'm still emailing all the embassies. Some of them reply no. And then finally, I think it was the embassy in Ontario or...
I think it was Ottawa, so it was like the main capital.
Ottawa.
Yeah.
I emailed them saying, like, here's my situation. I have a Haitian passport. I'm a captain of a Canadian vessel located in Italy. I need to get back to the boat. And they're like, yes, no problem. You can mail us your passport and your application and we'll send it back to you. And in that moment, I realized, you mean I could have mailed my passport from the beginning while still in Italy?
To that embassy, apparently.
To that embassy. But I honestly, maybe they made an exception because I was already in Canada and, we were just shipping the passport domestically. So that could have been it. But I want to believe that that's the story behind it.
Yeah, but that was still... Well, they didn't get back to you until after I was there. And after
because it was
went
Easter
boat shopping.
break.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So she was there for about a week, and then I showed up, and then we literally rented a car and started looking at boats for sale. Because we were sure, because like most of the embassies, like she said, had said no, and we're like, well, that's it. Like, we're done. Uma's done. Like, Europe's done. We're moving to Canada for 7 years. We're gonna buy a boat here. Gonna get a passport here. Because this was also like the last straw of 10 years of dealing with these situations. Like, you asked for one. This is the most recent, but we've got dozens.
Right.
And yeah, so we rented a car and we were driving around on Vancouver Island. We actually found like this home built trimaran that was like just commissioned. The guy had some issues that he couldn't keep the boat. He'd spent 5 years building this thing out of like cedar plank strips and fiberglass. Like,
it was a beautiful boat.
It was kind of wild, but like it didn't have sails yet, and so nobody could test sail it yet. But we took it out for a motor around. Like, we put in an offer on that boat actually while we were there.
Oh wow!
We were serious.
And
so wait, hang on. I know you said you haven't told like some of this story, but like, did people know? Did your like audience know that you were boat shop? Like, so
nope.
Nobody knows any of this.
Nobody knew.
No.
Nobody knew.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, we were on the island for like a week looking at boats. We actually ended up staying on that boat for 2 days because it was just at a marina. We're like, hey, like, we're pretty serious about this. Like, we went out and saw it once, and then we came back and looked at other boats. And then we went back like a week later, and we're like, we're pretty serious about this. Like, can we live on the boat for like 2 days, and just get used to it, like poke around? Because he wasn't living on it. Like, it was freshly put in the water. It still needed a lot of work. But we just want to like sit in it and think about it before we actually are serious about it. Like, see how it feels, like try it on. And so we actually spent a few nights in it. We
put in an offer, actually.
Yeah, we put in an offer and we were in negotiations with him when she got the email from the embassy in Ottawa saying like, yeah, you can mail it in. And we're like, it's still not a guarantee you're going to get it, but at least that's an option. And so we mailed in the application, drove around for another week or so. And then
we were out of town.
We were still on Vancouver Island.
And then his sister-in-law sent me a text saying like, hey, you've got a package
from UPS.
From UPS. I was like, oh, can you please open it? Open it. Like, open all the pages. Send me a picture of every single page you see in that passport. And so she did. She opened it. She took pictures. She sent it to me. And I was just like scrolling. And then sure enough, the visa page was like right there. And I was like,
wow.
Yes. I was like, okay.
We got back on the ferry that day, drove back, packed up our stuff, got on a flight like 2 days later and went back to Italy.
But we also...
But this took a month. Yeah. From flying to Croatia to getting back was like almost 5 weeks.
Yeah. But how did you like manage that emotional roller coaster of like committing to the point where you put an offer on a new boat to like, all right, our life's going to go this way now, to then being like, oh, nope, just kidding, we're going to go back. How did that
really difficult?
It wasn't easy because we saw that boat and we put in the offer, and to the point where we told the guy, listen, if you accept this offer today, we're buying the boat from you today. But there was a bunch of negotiation going on because he had a higher value of what he thought was the worth of the boat. But
like every boat owner has.
Exactly.
Well, it's kind of a weird backstory in that too, because like he offered that boat to some friends of ours at the same price that we offered to pay. But by then it was already through a broker and there was fees, and he was asking double what he offered it to our friends. And we're kind of like, what the fuck, bro? Like, we know you were willing to sell it for this price, which is already more than we wanted to afford. But we were just like ready to go. Like, we were just like, nope, that's it. We're doing this now.
I was just so exhausted. Yeah. And I think mentally I wasn't really quite, I was just ready to move on to a different chapter. And then so when we got the insert and I got my visa, we took some time and talked about it, and we asked ourselves, okay, was this the kind of the catalyst that we needed to realize that we even if we can go back to Uma,
have we been really gaslighting ourselves for the last 10 years?
Like, is it really time to move forward with a different project, with a different boat? Or do we actually want to go back to the boat and finish where we started? And then it took a lot of strength to find the pros and cons and to realize that actually the best move forward is just to keep going with what we have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so we hopped on a flight back to Italy.
But then it still took like another month when we got back to like re-motivate ourselves to like, like it takes a lot. Like that train was moving quick. And then when we got hit by this whole visa thing, then it was like a huge derailment. And then we started momentum in a completely different direction. And then that was another derailment. So we got back, we're just like, but also like we thought it was going to be a 3-month refit because we thought it was going to be just tearing out the middle cabin, fixing the dimples and the damage in the hull, putting that back in, and then, a fresh coat of paint, and we were going to be done. But this visa is valid for 1 year. And once we have it and the boat is in Italy, we can keep renewing every year because now we're commercial crew on a vessel that's in Italy. And so like is a blessing and a curse kind of thing, because now we were like, well, we've got a year. Like maybe we should tackle this. Maybe we should tackle that. While we're here, we're ripping stuff out anyway. Why don't we actually do the refit that we wanted to do from the very beginning, that we've been dreaming of doing for 10 years? Now we have this sort of like unlimited amount of time in a place with a good climate, in a place where we like, there's a good marine connections here. And we've already done most of the demo. We're like, why don't we take a year or two and actually do the refit that we should be doing instead of just putting another Band-Aid on a broken leg and keep going. And so then, we got back and we decided to just do the entire boat. Yeah. And turn a 3-month refit into, 2 years.
I have to add too that one of the reasons why we didn't stay in Canada is because like the emotional trauma of this whole visa situation, and why we had the thought of maybe we stay in Canada for longer and get like residency and leading up to citizenship is because it does take a long time. You have to live in Canada for up to 5 to 7 years before you can get to that. So we had to really commit to basically changing our lives to settle in Canada for that long.
And it's always been in the back of our minds as like, well, if this doesn't work out, we'll just move to Canada. If this doesn't work out, we'll just move. But it's like a bit, like Kika said, it's a huge commitment.
It's a big commitment.
To establish residency and start paying Canadian taxes and like we went all through,
I mean, we did that in the U.S. because we wanted to get Mia her passport so that we could travel freely because she was on a similar visa in the U.S. and we were doing so much sailing. She was in and out so many times that finally they're like, hey,
what are you doing?
It was actually after we got married. We flew back to the U.S. after our wedding, and she got pulled into the small room. Yeah. And they're like, do not try. Like, she was like, again, like in tears. I just got married. Like, I'm coming here. The only reason we went back to the U.S. was to have like a wedding reception and then immediately jump on our boat and sail back to Europe, sail across the Atlantic. This was in 2011. And they're like, do not try. They're like, we'll let you in now, but like, do not try.
Don't come back.
To enter on this visa again unless you have a green card. And Mia's like, don't worry, I'm never coming back. She was so scared.
That's crazy.
So, do you guys have seafarers books? You must, because you're doing charters and stuff.
We could, but we don't. We've never needed it. But now, after hearing this, I'm like,
it's worth
most
it.
of our skippers do.
They say, and when we took our course, they were like, this isn't a thing that you do for travel, for ease of travel. It's a thing you do because you're a commercial seafarer and you're required to have one to log your time working on boats, whatever.
Right.
But it means you get treated like super yacht crew. It means you get treated like cruise ship crew. Like, if you ever need to go through a country. So, like, America's a great example because it's very weirdly set up where even if you're transiting through America, you still have to go through American customs. You have to enter the country.
Yep.
No other country that we know of is like that. Like, if you have a connecting flight in Dubai, they're not going to make you get a visa. You're going to stay in the airport. You're going to stay in a super schwanky hotel on the international side. And the next day you're going to get on your connecting flight and fly out, like most countries. But you can get transit visas for anybody with a commercial seafarer ID. And so it's like a 48-hour, you just walk in the embassy and you're like, I need a transit visa. I'm going to a yacht in Australia and my connecting flight's in America. And you'll just get a 48-hour transit visa. And so they do treat you much differently because all of a sudden you're a professional, not a tourist.
Right.
And it's made our lives significantly easier.
And did you get that through like, where did you get that through Canada or where did you get that?
I got mine through Canada because we did our STCW course in Gibraltar. So we did a UK version. So our RYA version.
Yep.
And then it was kind of funny because we got all this paperwork and we got all the certificates. And then I emailed the Canadian embassy and I was like, hey, I need my book. Can I have it shipped to the embassy because I don't want to fly to Canada to pick it up? And they're like, sure. And then they just sent me one and I didn't have to prove anything.
No, they just trusted it. He had what he needed.
And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Did you get yours through Haiti, Kika?
No, so Haiti doesn't have a program like this. So what we did is we got it in Gibraltar. I have a UK seafarers. Because if you're working on a British boat, you can get a book from. Yeah. So basically the school hired me to work on one of their boats, which is British.
Cinematographer on board for a week, which is we were for and exactly doing that.
With all the training and the medical and all this stuff, that was enough to get my book, and so that was easy from there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of the staff that work for us are British, and they have all these. But I don't think it's a thing in the U.S. either. I'm sure maybe it is, but I just not. As
they just don't talk about it much because everybody on small boats is a tourist, not yacht crew. But I promise you, like in Miami, all of those yacht crew all have it because they're all from South Africa.
Yeah, and it's not just yacht crew; it's like shipping boats too. You have commercial shipping lines. Like all the people that work on it, they can't just all apply for visas just because the ship is stopping at a port. Yeah. So they get that book so that they're allowed to go in and out of those countries.
And we mentioned it before, but like for us when we were in Mallorca, it was interesting because it was kind of our first time kind of using it, and we went to the shipping agent or the yacht agent, and we gave them our passport and our crew list. And they went over, and the crew list got stamped into the country, but our passports never did.
That's why we had the
for the whole 6 months while we were in Mallorca, you can roam freely for all of Mallorca because the boat is there, the boat's stamped in, but our passports never got like a Schengen clock started on them with a stamp.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very interesting how it like shifts the rules a bit because we're now dealing with a 400-year-old industry and 400-year-old laws, basically, and passports have only been around since the 40s after World War II. So, like, we're now dealing with much older laws than passports and border control.
Interesting. This is super. This is really this good. Like, I know more than I should about like the flagging stuff, because our big boat's flagged in England, the other boat's flagged in Norway.
Yeah.
The U.S. doesn't have laws in place to do like small commercial vessel things. So, and it's Jones, all this stuff, and this is just another add-on to that. So I love this kind of stuff. Really interesting. But I want to ask you about back to the decision-making thing. We've talked a lot about like practicality versus romanticism, whatever. How do you guys make decisions? Kika, you mentioned like we made pros, cons, whatever. Are your decisions like pro-con lists, or are they gut feelings?
We have an app on our phone called Tiny Decisions, and we just spin the wheel, and it just tells us what to do. No. I mean, we do, but not for those.
No. Well, I mean, yes, we do a lot of pros and cons, and we talked a lot about every decision that we make. But
we
I feel
overthink and overplan everything.
And I think how it works with us is that we always have 10 windows that we open, and since the beginning, since even before we started the boat, we have 10 avenues that we could potentially take, and then whichever we feel like it's the route that's naturally going to open the most is what we focus on in the end. So when we started, when we were trying to figure out how we were going to make money traveling on this boat, since we don't have money, we were just brand new. We didn't have any money on YouTube. And so we said, okay, well, if we find 10 ways to make $100 a month, then we're set, at least for the Caribbean, we're fine. And so we did. We started 10 ways of making, $80 to $100 a month. And then YouTube started taking off.
Entrepreneurialism as necessity again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's practicality, right? Like we were determined to get started. So like, how do we make it work?
It's hard to make like a drop ship company that actually pays the bills without 6 months of work. Like it's hard to do that. But like you can sell 20 t-shirts. You can get 20 people to sign up for $5 a month on Patreon. That was a much more reasonable goal for us.
I think somebody started like their engine or something. Like
we're in a shipyard.
Outboard.
It's noisy.
I don't hear that either. It's
weird. Oh, well, that's great. That's great.
I think
You'll hear
on the
it
audio.
later.
That's all right. Yeah, I think, like Kika said, we always have like 10, 20, like all of these different like paths we could take. And then we actually don't really make decisions until one of them becomes more apparent than the others, right? Where it's like we could buy a boat in Canada and live there, or we could get the visa and go back to Uma. And then you're kind of like, well, we're not going to make a decision until we have more information. And then we got the visa and our offer was declined. We're like, well, we're going back. It's just sort of, it's almost like the decisions are made for you in a way, but you're still sort of in control of them.
Yeah.
We also usually focus on the things we can do, not the things we can't. So, it's the
Jesus.
dirt bike.
I was like, that's a loud engine.
And so, especially with like what we're going to do next on the boat, like what piece of hardware we're going to install next or whatever, like we could install 100 things today, but what do we need to do next? We can't install that before we install this, and we can't do that before we paint, and we can't paint before we, so you can work your way backwards until, okay, well, if painting's the priority, then we need to install, the trim for the head door, and we need to finish priming that section, and then we can paint. And so we kind of work our way backwards.
That's like the way you should do it. And it's very easy to preach, but so much harder in practice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also so easy to get overwhelmed with. This is a huge refit. We're building the entire boat again.
Yeah.
I was going to say refit's almost not the right word.
Rebuild.
Rebuild is maybe the better word. But
in the shape of our old boat.
Thinking of rebuilding an entire boat is so daunting that what we say, okay, we're rebuilding the boat. This is the whole list of what we need to do for the boat to get back in the water. In order to do all this is what we need to do this month.
Yeah.
In order to get that done, this is what we need to do this week. Okay, so let's boil it down to what can we do today, even if it's just, tightening up one hatch. And that makes it less daunting.
We're definitely not perfect by any means because we get distracted by shiny things too. And, we'll get a message being like, oh, your blah, blah, blah was delivered. And like, yes. And we drive to the mailbox immediately to pick it up and install it because it's like, your new winch was delivered. Like, it's exciting.
Yeah. Sometimes we need a little emotional boost of something shiny.
Sure.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah.
So this is kind of where I thought the podcast was going to start today.
All right, cool.
Now that we're almost 2 hours into this, what was the, you guys have mentioned a couple times you're doing the refit or the rebuild that you always wanted to do. So what was the big picture vision?
We didn't know, like when we got the boat, we knew nothing about sailing. This was the first boat we ever went sailing on, almost the first boat we ever stepped foot on. And so it took us a long time to figure out what that even meant. Like, what should you look for? Like, catch versus mono, cat versus, like Bermuda rig versus, like, there's so many different decisions you can make. And at the end of the day, none of them really matter because it's your boat. And if you're in love with it and you enjoy the lifestyle, go for it. Everyone has a different opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to one thing that we were talking about in part one of this conversation, when you mentioned that it's fun, right? We do this because it's fun, because it's a passion. For us, it was always less about if the sailing was enjoyable, if the sailing itself was fun. It was more about the lifestyle and the idea of the freedom of traveling, right? We could travel with our entire home without any dependence on land.
And technically for free. I mean, like, wind is free. I mean, boats cost money to maintain, but we're not dumping diesel fuel in it every day.
And for us, that was so much more important than just the, enjoying the sailing aspect. I mean, we've been lucky that we actually fell in love with sailing. That's a good thing. But yeah, for us, it was always the lifestyle choice, right? And so even going back to this refit, along the last 10 years, every single year we could find signs that Uma was getting tired, and there's certain things that we should address, but we had this momentum of movement that, we pushed it. We're like, it's fine for now. It's fine for now. We'll figure it out someday. To the point where we finished the Arctic loop and we were on the way back down. And then I had this anxiety when we were sailing out of Iceland. We were like, sailing in between two storms, and you could hear the boat like breathe inside. Like everything was just flexing, and I was like, Dan, we can't do this. After this passage, the boat needs some work, because I would not feel safe crossing an ocean again with this boat.
Up until about then, the boat was still a better sailor than we were. But after a year in Norway and Svalbard and Iceland and south, we became better sailors than the boat. And so it was time to either upgrade boats or fix everything that needed to be fixed, because we could push it. Like, our comfort level was above and beyond what the boat could actually handle. Because in Norway, like 40 knots of wind was the average.
Right. Yeah.
And sailing south out of Iceland, we were in like 35, 40. And to us, we're like, it's normal. But the boat was just like, fuck you. Yeah.
But again, like we just like the beginning, like we laid out all of our options. Like, okay, we want to keep going. What are the different ways that we can keep going? We could either fix this boat, buy a new boat, build a boat from scratch. And out of all the options, the one that was more the natural decision for us was just to keep working with our boat, because that's what we could afford.
And we already had it. Like we knew she sailed well. The size was fine. And we already owned the hull. Like, we're not in debt for it. Like a lot of people go in debt for a boat and then they're just transferring their lease to a new boat. So they don't really care. They're spending they're spending $5 to $10,000 a month on a boat payment, and they don't really care what boat that payment goes towards. They can just get it. It's like leasing a car.
Right.
But for us, since we already owned this boat, we're like, so we could go in debt for $100,000 and get a new hull, or we could spend 3 years building a new hull, or we could just keep the hull we have and put some glass and ribs in it, which would take a couple of months. And it's virtually free compared to anything else. Or we could find another used boat. Because at the beginning, when we started showing all the damage, like, we got dozens of emails from people being like, I've got this. Do you want it? I'll give it to you. I just got a sailing school and I can't use this boat anymore. You can have it. Like, we got so many different offers of all these other old boats. And we're
no such thing as a free boat.
Right? And for us, we're like, neat. But I think what a lot of people didn't realize is like 70% of this refit was done by the time we made it to Italy. Because we had already planned it all. We already knew what we needed to do. We'd already designed most of it. We already had been thinking about it for 10 years. Oh, if the galley was here, if it was this much bigger, if we had storage there, if we could flip the head over this way and put the toilet that way. And we'd have to start from, like, literally from scratch with a new boat. We'd have to go out and sail it for a year. We'd have to figure out, like, what we want. Because there's no boat out there that we're like satisfied with, A, the interior layout, and B, the build quality.
Well, you just hit the nail on the head, too. Like, you're not even, especially on a used boat, new boats as well, but you're not going to know what that list is until you've used it for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's like,
exactly.
It's almost pointless to try ahead of time.
And if it's just a toy, or if it's just a tool, or if you're going to get a new one every 2 years anyway, in some ways it doesn't matter. But like, we're sort of cursed with this mentality of like, I don't really know how to describe it, but like, we're kind of cursed with like not being satisfied with bad design. Like we can't live with it if
We
it's
have high
ours.
standards.
Inner architects in there.
Yeah, so like we can charter a Bali 54 for like the Uma Nation meetup. It's fantastic. Like you could put 16 people on board. It feels empty in the Caribbean. Like we've learned how to tack one of those things without turning the engines on. Like it's great. It's the right tool for that job. Would we ever own one? No, that's $2 million piece of absolute shit. We'd never own one and maintain it and sail it across an ocean. But like, and we've visited a lot of boatyards. We've seen how a lot of like top boats are built, and we're like, and you go in, and boat building is all reputation. It's all like Swan's better than
Oyster,
whatever, and it's all just bullshit. Because if you go in and watch how they're actually built, most of them are built the same way. It's all just reputation and rumor and speculation. And we've been to a lot of shipyards, even shipyards that have very high reputations, and we see how they're built, and we're like, really? Like this is where you're cutting the corners? And this boat cost $4 million? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
So unless we had $2 million just burning a hole in our pocket, and we wanted to find a yard that would be willing to build basically our boat from scratch, from the ground up, the way we want to build it and oversee the build of it, it didn't really make sense for us to do that, because like we knew that at the end of the day, we'd still find something in that boat and we'd be unsatisfied with it, because we'd be like, oh my God, I can't believe they, whatever it is. But if we're the ones doing the work ourselves and we can control all of that, we can have that response while we're building it and be like, oh, actually, I'm not going to be able to sleep well at night knowing we didn't tab that bulkhead in properly. We're going to grind it out and do it again. And so we can make all those decisions now. So when we are done with the boat, we'll know it and it'll be built well, but also we're not going to have any like doubts or regrets or dread or and if we find something we messed up, we'll be like, ha, oh fuck, we screwed that up.
Whoops.
But we screwed it up.
But we screwed it up. It's not like I can't believe we paid $2 million for this boat, even if we had $2 million and they fucked it up, you know?
I mean, it's like any art, right? If you're the one doing something and you have one mistake, it's yours.
Yeah.
You can either fix it or you deal with it. But if you're paying somebody to do that, they better do it perfectly to your standard.
Oh, and we know plenty of people now that have had either mostly custom built boats brand new, or like not custom, but like production boats built brand new, and it still takes a year to commission it.
Totally. Yeah. Totally.
And then sometimes it's uncommissionable and you have to sell it back to the company.
I mean, we basically did a similar thing to Falcon when we bought and rebuilt Falcon, but we did it at a boatyard.
Yeah.
And a few months into the process, I was like, because it was in England, I wasn't there, and I was like, this is like out of hand. Somebody has to be there literally every day because these people are just messing it up. So we hired Adam, who's our bosun now, and he basically was there working with the guys. And that boat sailed 3 years now, sailed almost 50,000 miles since the rebuild. And we're still finding dumb shit that the professionals did. And it cost us $1 million to do it.
Yeah.
It was just like, and we we never could have done it ourselves in the timeline we had. So it was like, okay, we paid for it. But still, and I've actually found that there's not a boatyard. The only boatyard I trust 100% is been here in Sweden. Everywhere else, other countries we've been to, it's just all the same sort of stories that are very frustrating. So
and it's not a car. Like if a guy doesn't change your tire right and it blows out on the highway, well, you pull over and get towed. It's a boat. Like if something gets fucked up, you sink and die. Like like it's a pretty steep like level of perfection you need to understand. And especially since we're sailing next, like no one's coming to save us. No one's going to be there to fix it. Like we need to know every system inside and out. We need to know how the redundant systems work. We need to know when to use them. We need to know how to fix everything on board. We need to know where everything is. And so like you don't get that level of knowledge if somebody else does anything for you. And
there's this mentality where if you're paying a professional to do it, people think that paying somebody to do it means it's going to be a better job.
Yeah, it's just not true.
We've learned the hard way that it's not always the case, because even with this refit at the beginning, when we thought that we would be saving time by hiring some people to do the ribs interior and the glasswork interior, when they were done and we went inside, we looked around, we're like, we should have done this ourselves.
Like
it's all right,
fine, but like we would have made sure the ribs were properly aligned. We would it's snowballed downhill into stuff we're dealing with now, where things aren't quite aligned the right way, and we're kind of like, oh fuck, like
Yeah.
We would have made sure that didn't slip over a centimeter and now it's unaligned and whatever.
Because we're a little bit OCD about that, but that's on us.
And 50% of our refit budget so far has gone into that glass work that those guys did at the very beginning. Because it was basically just like reglassing all the ribs and glassing a whole new hull inside of our hull. It was supposed to take 2 weeks. It took them 2 months. And yeah, they did it. Like, it's structurally sound, but when we looked back at the work, we're like, we definitely would have done this better. It would have taken us 2 months because we wouldn't have stopped to smoke cigarettes for 8 hours a day.
Do I dare ask what the refit budget is?
Budget?
Oh, we don't
really have a budget.
We don't have a budget. I think in our defense, everything we have is this boat, right?
Yeah.
So we don't look at it as like, okay, we have this amount of money to put into this boat because we have this amount of money to put into college or whatever it is, right? Mm-hmm. We know that our life is out there, and in order to get there, we have to get this boat done.
Yeah.
And so the budget so far, I would say, has been under $100,000 for sure.
Oh, for sure.
And including
half of that.
like 50% of it was getting the glass work done. Yeah.
It's something we've thought about trying to do a video about this. But it's a very sort of difficult question to answer because it's like the most basic version is we saved up X amount of money to refit the boat. And then when we're out of money, we're out of money, right? Like, and that's how some people go cruising too, right? Like they save up $20,000 or $40,000, $100,000, whatever their number is. And then they're like, that's my budget. I'm going to sail until I run out of money. And then I'm going to go back to work or whatever, right? But we're in the unique position where like our videos are our income. And so, because we can have like an unlimited stay here in Italy, it's like, well, the longer we stay, it doesn't matter to us really if we're making videos about building the boat or if we're making videos about sailing. Technically we make the same amount of money from each video. And so, that changes if like more people are interested in sailing than refit or whatever.
I was actually going to ask that if you've seen a change in your audience because of that.
It fluctuates because, to be honest, our audience is so polarized
and broad.
And broad. Like we have one side just hates the boat work. They're just ready for us to go sailing again. They won't watch until we're back in the water.
I'm unsubscribing until you go sailing.
And most of those viewers came from our trip to Norway, right? Yeah. They came into our community when we were already doing the epic adventures. So they don't know the backstory of the refit. And then we have the original Uma followers where they came in when we started working on the boat from the beginning, and so they're so excited now that we're back in the refit and they want us to just keep doing this for the rest of our lives.
Which we do not want to do.
I would say we definitely get more views out of the adventure style, but we have a core audience that loves the refit that are happy just watching it. And honestly, that's the thing too. It's like with the videos that we're making, it doesn't really matter to us, like whether we get 1 million views or 100,000 views on one video, because we know that the audience that grabs it is the right audience for that video.
And we're in a very unique position with this rebuild because we make videos about it, and because we can, work with a lot of marine companies now because we have good relationships with a lot of marine companies. And just be like, let's work together. Like, what do you need marketing wise? What can we offer you? What can you offer us? Like, it's always a bartering negotiation at some extent. And so, like, what it's costing us for the rebuild is much different than what it would cost if we were paying full retail price for everything we're doing, which is different than if we were hiring people to do all the work, which is different than our situation is so unique that even if we calculated every single dollar we've spent, it wouldn't really make sense to everybody else because it's going to be way under what some people would spend and way over what other people would spend. So, and we're also choosing, like, we made the decision at the beginning when we came back from Canada and we were like, okay, we're going to do this. And we're going to do the whole thing, and rather than just putting a Band-Aid on. So we made the decision then, we're like, we're going to do everything the most correct way that we possibly can. We're going to do all the research. We're going to figure out, we're not going to skimp on anything. If we can't afford it, we're going to like go negotiate with a company to find out what the best things are. If it doesn't exist, we're going to work with the companies to design it and build it. Like our whole electrical system didn't exist last year. Those systems weren't built, and the way we're putting it together wasn't designed. So we've been working closely with those guys to like
redesign a system,
design it, and not like redesign the components, but like work together and put it together in a way that hasn't been done before, that actually allows for the redundancy in the system that we're looking for. And so, yeah, it's been fun to kind of work. And that's also why it's kind of taken us a long time, because it's like, okay, we need to put hatches in. Okay, what are all the companies that make boat hatches? Like, let's break it down. Like, well, we're not going to do these ones. Don't like the design of those ones. Those ones are backwards.
How long will they last? Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely want aluminum. We definitely want acrylic. Like, you kind of go down and weed it out into like the top 5 companies that make something that would work. And then you email all of them and be like, hey, we want to work with you. Like, what do you want to do? And then figure it out from there. And then, yeah, so it's been a really interesting process. I was
going to ask too, like, okay, a hatch is a good example. Are you making... How much of your decisions are being made by who will work with you versus like, no, I have to have this component?
Zero.
Yeah,
like, we're usually the ones who reach out to those companies and have to come, especially in the marine industry. Not a lot of marine companies understand the marketing value and social media. And so we reach out to the company that we want to work with or that we would buy anyway. And then we try to convince them that it's worth the marketing value to work with us to promote basically what we consider would be the best out there in the market.
Marine industry is so difficult to work with because they're like, what's YouTube? And we're like, how are you still in business?
A lot of times.
We were like, what's your marketing budget? And they're like, we don't have one. We're like, you're the largest company in your field. Why do you not have a marketing budget? Like, how do you sell things? So it's so strange.
It's funny.
But no, we actually pretty confidently, like maybe there's some example, but pretty confidently can say that like we've never made a selection based off of like the company gave it to us for free, so we took it. You know, like we get a dozen emails a day from companies being like, hey, we want to send you this and make a video about it. And we're like, we don't want that. Like, cool. And we're paying for a lot of the stuff that's going on the boat because the companies don't have a marketing budget or they don't see the value. And we're like, okay, cool. You still make the best version of this. We're still going to install it. You're probably just not going to see your logo very often in our videos. You know, because that has a value.
The reason I asked that question is it is like a trade-off because you guys are making your living from this as well.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, that's got to be part of the calculation if it can work. But and it's such a fine line to be able to stick to your like, no, I want this because I want this.
Yeah, it's easier for us now because our channel's large enough and we have a good enough team and our negotiating skills are good enough that we can just get a AG1 or a Skillshare or any of these companies that they're like, here's some money, like say what you want. Like we don't ever sign contracts that tell us what we are allowed to say. They're like when companies agree to sponsor a video, they're agreeing to have access to our audience, but they're just like, tell people what you think of the product. We'll send it to you to try out. Mm-hmm. And in some ways it's easier to do those because it's like, we drink the stuff anyway and it's fine and it's good and they're going to pay us money. And then we use that money to buy the stuff from the marine industry that doesn't understand marketing, So it's like, and so for us, it's like if a company wants to send us a product and do all of this work for them, but the product isn't worth anything, or then it's like, no, we'll just buy it and then we'll sponsor the video by some other company that's not marine related, and it's just easier that way.
Mm-hmm. Less headache.
So it is a balancing act. Every single company that we work with, it's always a different negotiation. And it's a balancing act between like keeping the trust in our audience, keeping the trust, and only talking about products we actually use and enjoy and want anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been an interesting thing to negotiate our way through and to navigate our way through because it's a new frontier in marketing. And it's only been around for 10 years, and we're all trying to figure it out before somebody starts regulating it too heavily, and we all move somewhere else.
Well, you're also kind of riding the wave of it works now, but you're so dependent on the platforms as well, like YouTube's rules and their advertising and stuff like that. Yeah. Like that's
luckily
that's kind of out of your control.
We're a pretty uncontroversial channel. You know, we don't talk about politics, we don't talk about war, we don't talk about guns, we don't talk about. There's a lot of things we don't really do because it's just not really part of our lives. So like, we're not super concerned about that yet, but also again, like we're not in debt for anything we're doing and we're not going into debt for this rebuild. And so it's just like, if YouTube crashed tomorrow, we'd finish the boat and just fuck off.
We'll be fine.
We'll
just take our Defender and go to Africa, and
we'd go back to living on fish, rice, and mangoes. And because that's how we started, right? Like we started that way. We know we can always go back.
Yeah, when we started.
That is such a key like life philosophy to just if you can be okay with starting from scratch.
Yeah.
all decisions feel less risky.
Yeah. Well, and we own our truck now too, and everything about that's paid for, and we're gonna keep that. We own this container and all the tools in it, and so it's like YouTube to us is the current job, but like if the internet disappeared, we can go fix other people's boats. Like we're good at that. We can, like, every skill we have now is a marketable skill. Social media management, videography, cinematography, production, like all of that side, and all the skills of building boats. Like any shipyard would hire us to build boats if we walked into them, because like it's interesting to use this platform to build those skills, but they're all skills that people are willing to pay for if we wanted to go that route.
One of the 100 ways now.
Yeah.
Do you guys, this is off the, actually, I'm going to stay on the topic for the refit for a second. We just had to, because we get surveyed every year because we're commercial. And one of the items this year was to pull and inspect the keel bolts. Mm-hmm. And on Falcon, that's pretty easy because they're just tapped into it's a pretty modern hull with a steel fin, and they're just tapped into that. And you don't actually have to drop the whole keel to get the bolt out. You can take the bolt out. But I saw on your guys' Instagram, you guys dropped the keel. And I think especially on an older boat, that's like the scariest thing that you can do. What was that like? How did you even do it? Because I mean, like an old boat like that, it's like really, really, we joked on because Eastbjorn's a similar age, similar build that, you could take the keel, the nuts completely off, and the keel's just not going to fall off. It's just not going to come off. So how did you guys even do that?
It was a lot.
So for starters, we didn't know how hard it would be to drop the keel, but we just knew that with this refit, dropping the keel was something that we've talked about for 10 years. We're like, one day it would be great.
We needed to since we got the boat, for sure.
Because we don't know the situation of the keel. And especially with this refit, like we're rebuilding absolutely everything. It would be such a waste of opportunity to not inspect at the very least those bolts.
And just reinforce, like we built a brand new boat on top of a 50-year-old keel structure. There's like none of this is any good if it's not attached to
a good
that
foundation. Yeah,
sure.
But the only way to inspect it properly is to drop it because you can't see the bolts all the way through. And so we had conversation with like the ship designers and yacht builders and engineers, and we have conversation with dozens of people that we actually trust about what the best solution for that would be. And
of course, we got a dozen different answers.
Got all the opinions from like, well, you don't need to drop it at all, just sister the bolts in place, or you really need to replace the bolts entirely.
Or encapsulate it by just covering everything in like an inch of fiberglass and calling it a day. Like, we got every different version and that's the issue. Is like, when you ask 12 people, you trust their opinions and they all give you a different answer. You're like, fuck.
Now what? Yeah, now what?
Yeah.
But I think for us, the main thing we wanted to do is reinforce the entire bed area of that keel. In order to do that, you have to drop the keel. You have to glass all around. And so that was, I think, one of the decision factor where we're like, okay, we can't just go around the bolts and think that it's going to be a strong point. Yeah. We have to drop it.
Because we did all of the reinforcing in the bilge when we first got the boat, and that all of that was damaged, and we ground that out. That was the very first fiberglassing job we ever did.
When the keel started wobbling side to side.
Yeah, and so that structure was good, but the whole rest of the hull was bad. And then in this rebuild, we rebuilt the whole, like a whole new hull and ribs and structural bulkheads into it. So the inside was good, but that's only like half of the sandwich, right? And so like everything else could still delaminate off of it unless we sealed from the outside. And that glass needed to go down from one side under the keel stub and back up the other side, or it wouldn't really be that strong anyway. So yeah, taking the keel off and doing that glass work was actually our priority. And then the bolts were like, if we're taking it off anyway, what if some of the bolts are bad? And we could tell that two of the bolts in the back were bad, and one of the bolts we need to cut off because it was just completely inaccessible. I have no idea how they put that bolt on. It was like all the way in the back of the bilge in like this tiny little V of a section. You almost couldn't even get a socket on it. I'm like, how did you? And it's holding on nothing. Like there's no weight back there in the keel. And so we were like, if we're going to take it off anyway, we may as well. And we knew we couldn't replace the bolts because they were so close to the sides that if we replace them, we'd want to replace them with something, because they're J bolts. They're bronze J bolts. So they're theoretically
they're
good.
Bronze.
Yeah, cool. They're bronze J bolts. So they're theoretically
into lead keel.
Yeah.
So
So it's kind of the ideal system, but they're also quite small, and bronze is quite flexible. And so eventually we made the decision to just sister in new, like just giant 1 inch, like, because like it doesn't cost any more to do 1 inch than it does 3/4 inch. Like the bolt's the same size and the drill bit is the same. Like it's $0 more to go bigger. in this instance. And we're like, why not go bigger? Like there's no downside. It was like $80 more stainless steel or something. And that's the only difference between doubling the strength or quadrupling the strength. It was like, who cares? So we ended up drilling those bolts in first and tapping them in so that we knew that they were going to line up at the holes. And then it was just 3 days of just sawing and grinding and surgically removing fiberglass. And then we built like a long,
So wait, back up a second. So the keel was still in the boat.
Yeah.
You drilled through the hull and into the keel.
Yeah.
Tapped it in
giant
place.
Drill press. And then we did all the tapping, but we didn't put the studs in yet. So we just knew that all the holes were going to be in the right place.
Knew it was going to line up. How many bolts was it? How many new bolts was it?
We added 8 new bolts to the 12 original, but we cut one off.
Yeah.
So it's like everything's way stronger than it needs to be. But yeah, and then we built like this hole saw that went down over top of the original bolts, just barely, to saw out all of the junk around those. And that worked pretty well. And then the keel basically lifted off after that. But it was a lot of work. From glassing the inside of the bilge to putting the keel back on was 8 days. And it was how many terabytes of footage did we shoot?
I think
three terabytes of footage or something.
4 terabytes of footage in
like
8 days.
6 months worth of footage in 8 days.
8 days is incredibly fast, though. Wow.
Yeah. We had a limited amount of time to
We also had a
too.
really good plan, and we brought over a guy from the States with his big giant drill press. But we had a good plan, and we knew what we needed to do, and like that's all we focused on, and we were working on it for 14 hours a day.
Yeah.
Or 16 hours a day or something. It was like 8 a.m. till 8 or 9 p.m.
Wow.
And then, so we got the keel off and then, cleaned it all up. And then we installed the studs and epoxied those in so that there's like no air gaps between like the threads and the cut threads and the lead. So like they're not going to slide out because of the lead being soft.
Yeah.
And 1 inch, they have more surface area than the J bolts do anyway.
Yeah.
And then, getting it back on was tricky because normally you've got like 2 really long studs. And when you take a keel off, you only lower it down till you can access the shorter ones, and you leave the long ones in, and then you rebed it and you slide it back down again. But we didn't have that, so it took us a while to level it and get it all lined back up again. The yard actually came over at some point because we were using the lift, and they were like, they're seeing what we're doing, and then we were like, oh, it's fine, just leave it. Like, we'll use the jack stands, we'll just adjust it the last little bit. And they were like, you're signing a waiver saying if this goes south, you're not suing us. And we're like, okay. The yard's like, we're having nothing to do with this. You guys are insane.
Wow.
But yeah, we got it back on eventually and then epoxied it on and then like lifted the keel up to the boat, the last 1/4 inch.
Okay.
So that it was hanging, like we leveled the boat perfectly and then lifted the keel up so that center of gravity was perfectly aligned with the level of the boat. So it wasn't going to be like off to the side. And then put the nuts and caps back on and it seems to be good to go. So.
Damn, that's cool. Are you so all this structural work? The boat's still hauled out, right?
Yeah, it's right, literally right next to the container.
Are you
3 steps away?
Is it going to float on its lines?
It's a good question. That's the question that everybody on YouTube keeps asking us too.
I think it's going to be lighter, to be perfectly honest, because we're putting a lot of weight, but we removed so much unnecessary weight. The bulkheads were heavier. We had granite. We had a marble. We had a giant table this thick of solid wood that we never thought about when we were fresh. We didn't think about the weight before.
A lot of people see all of the stuff we're putting back in, right? The plywood, the glass, like batteries, all the stuff. But it's less clear how much stuff we took out because we took it out in trash bags, right?
Right.
A good example is like we added about 350 kilos of fresh glass foam and resin back into like the new hull that we built inside of the old. So the ribs and the reinforcement and like the whole interior of the hull got 2 layers of glass on top of all of that. And we used 200 liters of resin and it's about 2 to 1. So about 100 kilos of glass roughly. But we also had a cabin liner and a deck liner that was, 1/4 inch thick that we ground out. So we took like 5 or 6 like full trash bags of just fiberglass dust that we ground out of the boat. And so like each of those each of those bags of dust weighed like 40 or 50 kilos, right? So
yeah.
like we were removed just in the liner, like, and it wasn't really even glass well, which is a non-structural part of the boat.
Right.
We removed 200 or 300 kilos of glass, but then we put back in 300 kilos of structural glass. You know what I mean? So like, and then plywood to plywood, like bulkhead to bulkhead, what we took out were basically put back in the same thing. I mean, like, and the wood we're using is half the weight of the wood that came out because it's old and saturated and whatever. So like, there's a lot of areas where we have added weight, like the Dodger's it's got glass windows in it. You know, like the Dodger itself is pretty heavy, but we've taken so much out, and we're not going to be carrying nearly as much spare equipment and spare battery cables because we've been carrying around most of these tools for the last 10 years in the boat as well. So, it's going to be interesting to see, but I think we'll be a plus or minus a centimeter. You know, like we can't be more than 1,000 kilos under, 1,000 kilos over, which puts our boat down 10 millimeters or something.
Yeah,
It's
and
nothing.
on top of that, we are also replacing our mast.
Yeah.
And our original mast is like 100
we
kilo.
weighed just the spar. We had the forklift come over and weigh it. It was 150 kilos for just the bare spar, and our boom was like 50 kilos or something. Our boom's super heavy. So with the new mast and the new rigging on it, we're going to save 100 kilos of mast weight.
That's going to make a big difference.
That's going to make
performance.
and the feeling of sailing too. It's not going to be
what did you
heavy.
Just the stiffness of the new hull is going to make such like even if the boat's 1,000 kilos heavier, we're going to point 5 degrees higher into the wind because the boat's not going to flex. You know, like our sail. Yeah. We're not going to heel over as far because the rig is lighter. We're going to be stiffer into the wind. Like the boat's going to sail faster and be more comfortable, even if it's heavier than it originally was. So we're just not worried about it. Like what we keep saying is like the weight we removed was fat and the weight we're putting back on is muscle. You know what I mean?
Clever. I like that. Yeah. What did you put in for a mast, or what are you putting in for a mast?
We haven't quite finalized.
We can't disclose that information just yet, but it's going to be aluminum.
Yeah, it's
just
aluminum.
this aluminum.
I'm curious because I'm probably putting a new mast in our personal family boat, so you can tell me offline. I won't.
We'll send you the.
We've chatted with a bunch of them, and this is one of those good examples where like the top 4 mast manufacturers were all interested in working with us because they see the potential. But then it's just a matter of like what your timeline is, what your build schedule is, what your time slots are. You know, the financial side plays into it a little bit, but it's like the 4th or 5th, you know, negotiating point. It's more like, you know, because some companies were like, hey, we need a spar. And like, when do you need it? We're like, in a month. They're like, ha, try 2027. And we're like, shit.
That's not a good question.
You know, so it's just like, yeah. So
did you change the sail plan design? Did you?
Yes.
You
Yes.
Did. So what did you do? Because I'm also this is pertinent to what I'm doing on my personal boat.
Had a masthead sloop, Bermuda rig, right? So like one Genoa, one mainsail.
Yeah.
We in the past put a bowsprit on that we could do. We could use the same continuous furler for Spinnaker and a Code Zero. We're keeping that set up so we can keep the gear and just swap. So you keep the anti-torsion line in the Code Zero and in the Spinnaker, and then you can keep it swapped out. So if that day we're planning on being in light wind and it's going to be around the beam, we'll put the Code Zero. If it's going to be, you know, aft of 140 or something, we'll put the Spinnaker. And then it takes us like 8 seconds to roll it in and take it out. It's the coolest thing ever. We're keeping the bowsprit and that, but we decided and our mainsail is going to be about the same. The boom's about the same because the boat's relatively well balanced. We don't have an issue with that. We're moving the main sheet to mid boom, so it's in front of the Dodger and running all the lines. All of the main sheet control is going to be underneath the Dodger now. Spoiler alert, one of our winches is electric. And we can run our furling lines for the head sails up to it so we can actually like furl with electric.
Cool.
We're going to be so lazy. But the main difference is that we're going probably with like a 15/16 fractional. So we can get the Spinnaker up and out a little bit further. And then we're doing a Solent rig. So we're going to have like a working jib, like a 90, and then a bigger, lighter Genoa.
Is the mast the same height?
We're probably going to add 0.5 meter just to get the Spinnaker up, but like the mainsail is going to stay the same height, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because we don't really care about air draft.
Yeah, all right.
And so it's going to be cool. And our working jib, like the inner jib and the mainsail, are going to be made out of a pretty cool new sail material that actually has like Dyneema thread stitched into it, so it doesn't stretch and it doesn't lose its shape ever, which is pretty cool.
Where are you getting the sails from, or can't you say that either?
Precision.
Precision sails. We've been working with precision sails for over 5 years.
They like to really overbuild our stuff because they know where we sail. And so they're just like our main sail. So we put it on in Norfolk, sailed up to Canada, sailed across the Atlantic, a year in Norway, Svalbard, Iceland, down into the Med. It's like 4 years old. We've done 15,000 miles on it or something like that. It still doesn't come down when we release the halide. We have to it's still crinkly. Like we have to pull it down. Cool. So we'll probably go back with them again. But this time we're going to get a spinnaker that's actually meant for our boat because it's designed. Our spinnaker was always undersized, but we use it a lot because we're electric. And so in like 3 knots of wind, we'll have the spinnaker out and we'll be going downwind at 1.5 knots.
Cool. I want to ask you guys in the big picture. Do you guys feel like you have roots anywhere?
No.
This is the longest we've ever been in a country in 10 years.
It's driving us crazy. Us. Oh, yeah.
And Norway was the second longest. We spent a full year in Norway, but we were sailing all the time. So it was different. And Norway's coastline is absolutely magical. So we would have spent 4 years in Norway and still felt happy. But here it's absolutely killing us to be sitting still this long.
Do you
Our
feel
roots
like
is the boat?
Yeah.
Which
What'd you say? What'd you say, Kika?
I said our route is the boat.
It's literally like where the anchor drops. Yeah.
So, and is that does that align with like what you felt kind of growing up in your past, or is that a change?
It has its pros and cons. Like for legal reasons and paperwork reasons, like it's difficult because nobody does this, at least not enough for anybody to write rules about it. Like we haven't lived in a country for more than 6 months in 10 years.
Yeah, we're not resident of any place. We're literally
can't be residents of anywhere.
Which
it has its downsides.
Yeah, it does have challenges, especially for me applying for visas, right? They want to make sure that I have roots in Haiti, which I absolutely do not. So
driver's
it makes
licenses, all that stuff, getting mail, it all becomes issues. But at the same time, with the thing I think we love the most about living on a boat, not right now, obviously, because our boat's out of the water, but when we're in the water and the boat is on anchor, and this has happened a lot, is we'll wake up in the morning and we're like, oh shit, the wind's out of the west today. Let's leave. And like anchor up, because we always keep, like a month's worth of food on board. And unless we're changing, and the Meds is super easy, but unless we're changing countries and we have to go clear out or clear in, like we've woken up in the morning. I mean, deciding to do this refit was literally like, we woke up in the morning. It was like Valentine's Day. And we were like, it was just like a feeling. We're like, we have to, like, it's now or never. We have to do this now.
The wind was perfect to cross over here.
And so we literally left that morning to sail here.
Yeah.
And the freedom that living on a boat allows you is exactly that. And not having ties to land. Like once the boat's in the water, we could literally just pick up and be like, let's sail to Australia. And we could just leave and we could just do it and nobody's going to stop us and it's just the weather and us. So that's the thing I think we love the most about it. And it's also the most challenging because it's like you have an unlimited amount of decisions to make every single day because you could just be like, well, we could go to Norway, we could go to Iceland, we could go to Greenland, we could go to Canada, we could go like literally anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's challenging that way as well.
I think emotionally is also challenging because, I mean, technically my roots are in Haiti because that's where my family is. And so
some of your family.
It's hard, the more we travel, the harder it is to get in touch. I mean, luckily with social media and WhatsApp and stuff, it's easier. But my grandmother, for instance, that I don't see often, and a lot of people in Haiti that I care about, it's harder to visit. And not everybody can travel, especially someplace far away like Europe. So we haven't seen a lot of our families and friends.
Most people get 2 weeks of vacation a year, right? And they've got it booked for summer camp and, building the patio in the backyard. It's not. So, I mean, traveling back to Canada last year for all this visa stuff, I got to meet my 5-year-old nephew that I hadn't met before.
Wow.
So it's just
And also, I mean, we always invite our friends and family to come visit, but for us, because we move so much, aside from right now, we always say you can choose a time or a place, but you cannot choose both because we can either meet you in August 2027, wherever we happen to be in the world, or you say, when you make it to Greece, let me know. And then that would be, and that's how we had friends come visit, and that was our only criteria. It's like, you can't have both.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's the difficult part. I mean, it's somewhat getting easier, but it's not, the missing family part, especially for her, because I grew up like remote. You know, I only saw my brother and my parents, you know, but she grows up in like a multi-generational household. So it's much different.
Our side of in our culture, it's very, everybody's so close together. Like everybody's your cousin, not because you're blood relative, but because you just grow up together. And you don't really know who you're related by blood, or who you're related because your parents were best friends when they were growing up, because everybody's always close and you keep in touch with everyone. And so when I am in this WhatsApp group of family and friends, and whenever I miss things, it's a little bit painful. It's a little bit emotional, but but it's our choice, and you live with it.
Yeah. Is your family supportive?
Now they are, yeah.
They weren't?
It took a while. My family is very protective that way. We need to charge our computer. But at the beginning, they always thought I was this wild person that needed to be grounded down. When I met Dan and I bought my motorcycle, they were like, "What are you doing? Buy your motorcycle?" And then I brought up the story that I wanted to be on the boat, and they're like, "Oh, this is another of your wild adventures. You're gonna get grounded someday, and you're gonna go back home, and it's gonna be kind of a vacation, and then after that, you're fine." But then they start realizing that we were serious, and they were scared because they don't know what a life on a sailboat is, and so they didn't know that we could actually live full time on it. So they were like, "What are you going to eat? Like seaweed and drink water for the rest of your life?" And I was like, "No, Mom, we're gonna go to the grocery store and we're going to do our market kind of like exactly like you do, only it's gonna be underwater." On the water, I have to make sure there's a difference there. But I think that, they were protective. And then after about a year, when they realized that we were serious, we were actually doing the right things, we were being careful, then they came around. And now my family's my biggest fan.
And they could start seeing that's like an actual lifestyle and an actual
and
profession.
You can actually make an income from it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's unique, I think, too, and also must make them feel good. Last question: who came up with the "Don't buy a couch"?
Oh, neither of us.
Oh, it wasn't it was it came naturally.
Yeah.
We were helping a friend when we were close to graduation. We were helping a friend move into her new apartment. And when we made it there, her roommate, he made big cookies and invited us over, and we were chatting. And he's like, I have a theory, because our friend moving in had a lot of things that we were helping her with. It took all day. And then he was saying, I have a theory. He's a foreigner. He traveled country to country, and he's like, I just don't buy furniture. I don't buy couches or beds or anything. I only go to apartments that are already fully furnished.
Yeah.
And we're like, interesting.
Because he just jumped around from job to, he would like work one place for a year, and then he'd go to Thailand, and then he'd go to Dubai, and then he'd go to Chicago, and he would just be all over the place.
Need to move a little sound.
And so that was he told us that he was like, he literally was like, if you want to travel the world, don't buy a couch, was like his thing. And like,
interesting.
At the time, we kind of didn't really think too much about it, but then when we started getting the sailboat and stuff, we're like, well, we want to travel the world. And it was at that time when we were graduating, right? And so we have like a futon from Craigslist and a TV, and you're at that time where you're about to move into your own apartment or rent a house and settle down and get a job and do all that stuff. And once you rent your first apartment, you buy a mattress, you buy a couch, you buy a TV and a washing machine and all that stuff. And we're like, this is when we get to make that decision. We don't get to make that decision when we're 40 and have 2 kids and a house and a car payment and college debt and
and
all
ties,
that stuff.
Yeah.
And so we were like, this is when we get to make that decision, is now. We're not going to buy a couch. We're not going to go rent an apartment. We're not going to go be an intern at an architectural firm. Like we're going to do this instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is awesome. That is a perfect place to wrap this up. I love that. I love that story. That's fantastic. Don't buy a couch. There you go.
Don't buy a couch. Yeah. I actually have a "Don't buy a couch" t-shirt on.
Hey, there you go. I didn't even see that, actually. Only saw the top of it. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, this has been awesome, guys. We'll have to do a part 3 another time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
this has been fun.
All right, guys.
It's been a good break from boat work.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was good timing, I guess, with the power outage today. So
yeah.
All
right, guys. Thank you.
Andy. Cheers.
Talk to you later. Bye. Thanks again to Orca for sponsoring this episode of the show. Check out modern navigation for yourself at getorca.com. On the Wind is the podcast about sailing, created by 59 North and hosted by me, Andy Schell, and also by Nikki Henderson, Jesse Zevelkink, and August Sandberg. The show is mixed and produced by me and August in Sweden and Norway, respectively. The intro theme music is composed and performed by former podcast guest, sailor, and musician Cameron Dale, while the outro music you're hearing now is, of course, by our friends, the Storm Weather Shanty Choir from Bergen, Norway. We love hearing from our fans, so send your questions and comments to holdfast@59-north.com, and please do us a favor and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to join us on the Quarterdeck as well to nerd out about seamanship. That's quarterdeck.59-north.com. Until next time, hold fast.
And when me money was all gone on liquor and the horse, I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. I made up me mind that I was inclined to go to sea no more. As I was walking down the street, I met sweet Angeline. She said, come home with me, me lad, and we'll have a cracking time. But when I awoke, it was no joke. I found I was all alone. My silver watch and my money too, and my whole bloody gear was gone. Was gone, was gone. My whole bloody gear was gone. It was when I awoke, it was no joke, for my whole bloody gear was gone. As I was walking down the street, I met Big Rapper Brown. I asked him if he would take me in, and he looked at me with a frown. He said,
last time you was paid up with me, you talked up no score. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Once more, once more, to go to sea once more. I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance to go to sea once more. Sometimes we're catching whales, me lads, but mostly we get none. With a 20-foot oar in every paw from 5 o'clock in the morn. And when daylight's gone and the night's coming on, we rest upon our oars. And oh boys, you wish that you was dead or snug with the girls ashore. Ashore, ashore, or snug with the girls ashore. Oh boys, you wish that you was dead or snug with the girls ashore. Come all you seafaring lads that listen to me song. When you go a big boating, boys, make sure you do not go wrong. You take my tip when you come off a trip. Don't go with any whores, but get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more.
No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more. No more, no more, to go to sea no more. Get married instead and have all night in bed and go to sea no more.